Namaste, everyone. I want to start by thanking NKK for giving me this wonderful opportunity to organize the college readiness event. As a parent who was going through this ordeal last 4 years, I can understand the anxiety and the stress parents go through and sincerely hope that Sumana's experience and vast knowledge will help you all. We've also brought in some kids who have just joined college, and the whole process is fresh in their minds to answer any questions you may have. And also, there are 3 kids who are actually veterans in college. I just want to quickly explain the plan. Supna Madhwal is the speaker of the event. She will do a detailed presentation on college readiness. Everyone else will be on mute. So if you have questions, please make sure to send that in Zoom's chat window or on YouTube. Your questions will be shortlisted and answered after the presentation. After that, we will have breakout sessions with the kids where you can ask questions directly and get the answers. Please note that this session will be a general college readiness session for high schoolers. Sumana has offered graciously to do another, maybe 2 more sessions where, in January, we will be actually doing a session for juniors, specifically for high school juniors who will be applying for college the next year, in the next school year, and another essay writing workshop also sometime in April. So hope to see you then as well. If you think those kind of sessions would be helpful to you, please leave some feedback so that we can start arranging for those sessions. Now will introduce Ms. Sumana Madhwal. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to thank everybody for attending this event. My name is Vishrut Madhusudan, and I am a first-year student at Georgia Tech, majoring in industrial engineering. Today, I have the honor of introducing Ms. Sumana Madhwal. Ms. Madhwal currently serves as the Associate Director of College Counseling at the Westminster Schools. She previously served as a magnet counselor at Wheeler High School for 10 years, and I am glad to say I was one of her students. Her bio has already been shared before, so I will not be repeating that, but I want to say some things that are not in the bio. Ms. Madhwal has helped not just me, but thousands of students in the college application process. From day one of school, she made sure that kids were comfortable and assimilated in high school and prepared us to be successful in college. She taught us invaluable skills, including study techniques, time management, and stress management. Especially during our junior year, she conducted essay writing workshops, one-on-one lunches, and presentations to keep us informed. Her biggest achievement in my eyes was to keep my parents updated with the college application process, so they didn't bug me as much. I remember sending Miss Madhwal my rough drafts for my college essays and her sending it back fully marked. I'm sure that the other Wheeler alumni can relate. A few accolades that she has received include the Yale Educator Award and the University of Chicago Outstanding Educator Award, which are testimony to the work she has been doing. I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome the college students who have joined me here today. Varsha Ramachandra, Kirti Bharadwaj, Shripriya Srinivas, Jyotsna Rao, Amol Gadekar, Advik Bharadwaj, Anushka Jain, and Rohan Chiknas. We are ready to answer any questions you may have in the breakout sessions, which will happen after Ms. Madhwal's presentation and the Q&A. Now I welcome Ms. Madhwal to share her extensive knowledge about college preparation and readiness. Thank you.
And for taking time out of your day, especially for those in COB. I know it's the start of a week-long break. So thank you for that. And also thank you to everybody who's working behind the scenes to make this possible. So if you can give me a second to just go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. All right. So today's presentation is really a broad overview of the college application process from start to finish. We're not really going to dive deep into some of these other subtopics, but I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation, you will walk away with a good understanding of how the process rolls out and what the students' responsibilities are at different grade levels and what the parents should also be thinking about doing. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to cover timelines. We're going to talk about what students should be thinking about in terms of developing their profile, standardized testing, because that landscape has changed rapidly over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic, how to build a short list, what you should be looking at when you're researching colleges, And we'll talk about the different applications available to students, and then we're going to finish with scholarship and financial aid. So let's dive right in. Let me start first with the general college application timeline. So if you look at how the application plays out, I'm hoping that what I'm going to talk about with respect to this slide in particular will quell some fears, because I know there's always a lot of chatter, especially among freshmen and sophomore who believe they need to be doing certain things. And some of it is true, but there's also a lot that you really shouldn't have to be concerned about in freshman year, especially. So freshman year, I like for students to focus on their academics and on learning. It is a transition to high school. And as everybody knows, the transcripts that you present to colleges are cumulative. So it's, if you get bad grades in 9th grade, yes, while some colleges will understand, it is something that factors into your overall GPA. So I think freshman year should definitely be a year that's focused on academics and learning. And the same for sophomore year for the most part, right? So college preparation should really start in the summer between sophomore and junior year. I like to see students start to explore the SAT and ACT, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail when I address standardized testing. They're two very different tests. So students should really try to explore both tests so they understand which one's better for them. Junior year is the year that you really get down to preparing for the process as such. It starts with taking the PSAT in October of junior year. It is the qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship Program. We'll talk about that in a little more detail as well. And then generally, I like to see students start to test, as in take the actual SAT and ACT anytime after the PSAT, and then get their testing done ideally by about June or July of the summer, right after their junior year. Junior year is also the year that you prepare to get ready for the application process, as in researching colleges, trying to understand, if you have a specific major in mind, and also to get your spreadsheets ready and to understand what the colleges are going to require from you in terms of documentation and things that you will have to submit. And finally, when you students get to senior year, they will start to submit applications in the fall. And the process ends with students putting a deposit down at one college that they will choose to attend on May 1st. So May 1st is a universal deposit deadline, and that's when the process ends. Oh, I'm sorry, give me 1 second, just trying to advise. Okay, here we go. So let's start with student profile development and what students should be doing to present themselves in a competitive manner to colleges. From a college perspective, here's what they will look at when they look at a student's application, and here are the things that they gravitate towards first. The first thing they always look at is the transcript. They're looking at grades and they're looking at rigor on the transcript. The one thing that everybody should understand is that when colleges evaluate students, they evaluate students within the context of their high school. So what that means is that they are not going to compare a student from one high school to a student from another high school in terms of the profile they present, the transcript that they present, and how many APs or IB courses they choose to take. And the reason being, every high school offers a different array of honors courses, AP courses, IB courses, and so it really wouldn't be a fair comparison. So for example, if you looked at a student who attended a school in the Metro Atlanta area, that offering is going to look very different from a school that was, say, in South Georgia, in rural Georgia, right? The offerings would definitely not be the same. So they are going to not compare students. They're going to look at you within the context of your high school, look to see how many courses, honors courses and AP courses the high school offers, and how many of those you take advantage of. And depending on how many of those you took advantage of, they will come to certain conclusions about who you are as a student. So that's the first thing. The next thing that and this is not necessarily in that order after the transcript, but they also do pay attention to standardized tests, the SAT and ACT, and the scores that you're presenting. We will talk a little bit more about the test optional movement. Fairtest.org, which is the website that I've listed there, is the website that houses information about schools that are test optional. And so that would be a good resource to tap into. They also look at community service and extracurricular activities. And one of the reasons colleges do this, and I want students to understand this as they're wondering what they should be doing outside of the classroom in high school. The reason they do this is because when they invite students on campus to be students and part of their program, they're looking for students who will be engaged on campus, right? You will participate in clubs, you will, I guess, start new clubs if you choose to do that. More than anything else, that you as a student will make campus dynamic. And that is why they look to see if the student has a history of doing that in high school, because the assumption is if you were deeply involved in high school, you will bring that same energy to campus as an undergraduate student, and you will make the campus dynamic. The last thing I have on the list here is writing skills. And here's what I mean by that. They have a certain sense for who you are as a student and what your abilities to write are by looking at your English grades. But the essays on the application, whether it is the Common App essay, the main personal statement, or the supplemental essays, do make a big impact. So it is something that students should pay attention to and should really put some thought into as they're writing. So when we look at student profile development, there are really two ways to develop your profile, right? The first is for you to pick a college that you really have your heart set on, and you scour the college's website and you say, okay, what are they looking for in a student? And you do everything you can to check as many boxes as possible so that you are in, you're basically preparing your profile for that one college. The other way to do it is to do what's right for you every step of the way. And your profile will develop in the way that will allow you to thrive and will allow you to be a good fit for a college that is truly a college that you will enjoy your time at, succeed academically and outside of the classroom. So clearly, the second way is the way to go. And here's why I say that. If students develop their profile and say, okay, I should do this extracurricular activity or that activity because this college is going to like what they see when I put it on my resume, the fear I have is that a student will spend 3 years of their life developing their profile for a college that at the end of the day could accept them or could deny them. And if they get denied at that point, it is almost a negation of everything they've done for 3 years. And that is not a good place to be for a student. So I always encourage students that if you're doing something to develop your profile, right, do things that either you're interested in or activities that you're going to participate in because you are vetting the landscape and you're trying to figure out where your interests lie and where your aptitudes lie. Because if you are truly interested in what you're doing, you will do a much better job of packaging it in your application and presenting yourself to the college. So in terms of student engagement, that is really what you should look towards. Also, please understand that activities that you would put on your application don't have to be structured activities that a college will offer, like summer programs or camps that you attend, right? If you have something you're passionate about and you choose to work on it on your own time, but that skill develops over time, it is absolutely an activity that you can put on your applications. So giving you an example, I've had students that were really interested in cars and working on engines and things like that. So I had a student once who's, with the help of his parents, he bought a car that, needed a ton of work. And then he spent 2 or 3 years just building that car up. But just think about the amount of learning that happened in that time, during that time, right? He had to do research to learn about things that he didn't know about. And of course, he had a finished product to show at the end of the day. I've had students who've learned how to play instruments during the pandemic because there clearly wasn't much else to do. So don't discount anything that you're passionate about and that you pour your efforts into developing on your own. That counts as well. When we talk about what parents should focus on, parents, here's what I want you to think about. Your child at the end of 4 years of high school is going to move out and going to live on campus by themselves, and they're going to have to manage their life on their own, right? When they turn 18, You don't get to talk to their pediatrician. You get off of a ton of lists. And unless your child gives the entity permission to talk to you, you are not going to get any information. So as a parent, what you want to think about is, what does my child need to learn in order to live their lives effectively and to be able to make those decisions that they're going to have to make and move their lives in a direction they wanted to move. So one thing I will say that a lot of parents do not gravitate towards is towards letting their children work. And I think work experience, it really doesn't matter at the high school level where you're working, whether you're working in fast food, if you're working as a checkout, cashier at Kroger or Publix, or if you're working at Target. These are all real world skills that your child needs to learn. So they learn to look somebody in the eye and have a conversation with them. They learn how to show up on time and have their manager rely on them over an extended period of time. And they also learn, besides people skills, they also learn how to function within an organization, which is all extremely important if you're looking for that first internship or more. So as a parent, we're in a unique position to understand where the holes are with respect to our children's soft skill development. And that's really our charge. That's what we need to push our children to develop, and that too while we have them under our roofs when they're in high school. Because once they fly the coop and they're on their own, you know that you're not going to have as much influence. The last thing I'm going to end with respect to profile development is the one thing that students should stay away from. Please stay away from participating in things that you don't have an interest in, but you believe that it would look impressive on a college application. Because like I said, if your heart is not in it and you're not willing to give it 100% of your effort, it is going to show when you complete your applications, in the way you describe it, in the way you talk about it. If you ever have an interview with a college, it will absolutely show. So this is what I mean by do what's right for you. Understand where your deficiencies are, plug those holes, and go after whatever it is you're interested in. Keep in mind that when colleges look at applications, they prefer to see depth of engagement rather than breadth of engagement. So it doesn't make sense to be involved in 15 clubs and organizations at your high school, because everybody knows that you're not going to be able to participate in a meaningful way. But if you're involved in 3 and you do it starting your freshman year to the point where you can grow into a leadership role, now that matters. Right. So let's talk about standardized testing. Standardized testing, the landscape has changed so much since the start of the pandemic. So I will start with what colleges will accept. So colleges will accept the SAT, the ACT equally. They don't care for one test more than the other. So those are the 2 standardized tests that you would submit with your application if a college requires them. The PSAT is also important in junior year. In the 9th and 10th grade, the PSAT is just a practice test for the SAT. It really means nothing more than that. But in the 11th grade, it takes on a whole nother significance because it becomes the qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship Program. That's something we can go into in detail. That's a whole nother presentation. But National Merit basically offers scholarship money themselves. The dollar amount itself is not that high. It's about $2,000 to $2,500, but it is extremely prestigious to earn National Merit, either commended, semifinalist, or finalist standing. And then also where the big money really comes in is National Merit partners with colleges, which will offer everything right from flat dollar amounts, $20,000 scholarships, all the way to full tuition to full ride scholarships. So National Merit is a prestigious program, and the PSAT is the qualifying test. So if you are a junior, please know that some high schools will just offer it to all juniors, and you don't have to pay for it. In certain high schools, you actually have to register and pay for it at your high school in order to take the test. So that's something to be aware of. So let's talk about the test optional movement for a little bit. When the pandemic set in, colleges realized that many students did not have access to the SAT or the ACT. So many of them went test optional for 1 cycle, some for 2 cycles, and some for even 5-year cycles because they're testing it out. So what that means, if a college says they're test optional, what that means is that you don't have to submit a test. And if you choose not to submit a test, the college will evaluate you based on everything else that you're submitting. So clearly your application, your extracurriculars, they might ask you some additional questions in the supplemental questions to really try to get to understand who you are. But the standardized test is not a conversation piece in the committee's reviews that they do when they're looking to admit a student, right? That having been said, that changed this year. So the USG, for one, the University System of Georgia, actually started to require tests for students who were applying to any of the USG schools. So Georgia State, Georgia Tech, UGA, KSU all started to require tests, right? As far as test optional goes, the one question that comes to the table all the time is, if I've taken the SAT or the ACT, and the college that I'm applying to is test optional, should I submit it or should I not, if I'm happy with the score that I have? So this will come in play when you're looking at what we call the mid 50%. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail when we're talking about what you should evaluate when you're putting a shortlist together. But every college publishes a range of SAT or ACT scores, which is based on the current freshman class that they just accepted. So there's a low, an average, and a high. The general rule of thumb is if your test score is in the average to high range for that college's mid 50% range, then you should go ahead and submit your score. So test optional is truly that. Fairtest.org will list all of the colleges that are test optional. And you will be surprised, it's not just the tier 2 or tier 3 schools, it is some of the tier 1 schools as well. Definitely not the Ivies, but schools like UChicago actually went test optional way before the pandemic even set in. So it is clearly a movement, and it's really going to be interesting to see where this goes over the next 2 to 3 years. As far as the SAT and ACT go, they are two very different tests. And like I said, colleges will accept either or. So in sophomore year, and I would say in the summer after sophomore year, it really makes sense for a student to try both tests. And when I say try, I'm not suggesting that students take the actual test themselves, but you can take practice tests. And if you're going to take practice tests, I suggest that you stay true to the timing per section, because that is one of the big differences between the SAT and ACT. So take a full-length practice test, time yourself, and then see how you do. And more importantly, what I want students to pay attention to is on which test did you feel more comfortable answering the questions? And here's what I mean by that. The SAT offers more out-of-the-box type of thinking questions, whereas the questions on the ACT align a little bit more with what you learn in the classroom. The focus is also very different. You get much more time per question on the SAT than you do on the ACT. So the ACT is very tightly time-bound. Also, the SAT is more algebra heavy. The ACT is more geometry heavy. So there are some very significant differences between the two tests, which should hopefully sway a student one way or the other. If you take both practice tests and your test scores come out kind of looking the same, and the way you can figure that out is if you Google concordance tables, you should be able to find like what a score on the SAT, what that translates to on the ACT. If they come out looking almost equal, I would say pay attention to how you moved through each section, right? Did you feel more comfortable answering the questions on the SAT or the ACT? Once you make that judgment as to which test is better for you, now you pour your efforts into that one test and take it maybe once, twice, 3 times, how many ever times you need to take it to get to the score that you're aiming for. What I see among students is that usually if they take the test 3 times, the scores start to plateau after a while. So unless you're willing to do something different the second time you take it or the third time you take it, you really shouldn't go there. Understand where your weaknesses are, where did you lose points, ask for a score report. And I think there's a way to sign up for that when you actually sign up for the SAT or ACT. And then when you get that score report, really dissect it and look at what your areas of weakness were, where you excelled and where you lost points. And that way, when you're prepping for the second time or the third time, you can truly plug those holes, and that way you'll see a bettering in your test score, right? In terms of testing timeline and getting ready to submit your applications, this is not etched in stone, but generally speaking, I like to see juniors get their testing done by the end of junior year. And the reason being that once you step into the summer between junior and senior year, there are other tasks for you to complete. And there are a lot of other things that you really need to be focusing on, and you don't want to have to be battling with testing at that point. Also, if you look at Georgia Tech and UGA, they both have early action deadlines of October 15th. If you want to have your test scores in hand prior to submitting your application to these two colleges, you ideally want to get your testing done by, say, June. Well, I know the SAT has a test date in August as well. You could do that, but definitely get it done by the summer between junior and senior year. AP exams. So students will start taking AP exams starting their freshman year if they take APs in freshman year. Please know that most colleges will not use AP exam scores for admissions. They use them primarily for placement once the student has gotten in and is choosing to attend that particular school. There are always exceptions to this. The IVs, for one, will ask for AP exam scores when you're applying to the school, and they do use it in admissions. But generally speaking, most colleges will not use them for admission. They use them more for placement. SAT subject tests, so these individual tests that you could take in like biology, chemistry, US history, those are obsolete. They don't exist anymore. Also, the writing section, while it does exist, and at this point, while I tell students, take it at least once, just so you have it to submit to a college if they ask for it, but also know that the writing section is really not something they pay very close attention to, right? So I would say the first time you take the SAT or the ACT, I would say take the writing section at least once. And then if you're going to retake the test, don't feel like you have to redo the writing section every time. Okay, so this is a really important piece for students especially. How do you build a short list of colleges that you apply to, right? How do you get a list together so that you're ready to hit the ground running when you get to being a senior, and how do you know what you even need to do to apply to these colleges? So I will say the first thing that students really need to do is to understand who they are. If you don't understand who you are, whether things like diversity are important to you, do you function better in a large classroom setting or a small classroom setting? Do you prefer individualized one-on-one attention, or are you an independent worker and you don't really care sitting in a freshman seminar with 300 students in it? These are the kind of things you really need to understand about yourself before you really start putting a short list together. So one thing I will say is that the putting of the short list together doesn't really start or shouldn't really start until junior year. But one thing that parents and students can do starting in freshman year is, if you take a vacation somewhere in this country or even abroad, if you're choosing to apply to international schools, right? If you take a vacation anywhere, take the time and maybe visit a college campus that is close by, regardless of whether you would even consider applying to that college or not. And here's why I say that. As a junior, when you sit down to do your research and you're looking at a college's website and they claim that they're a mid-sized college and they have about 12,000 students on campus, you're not going to know what that means to you as a student if you haven't stepped on a college's campus that is a mid-sized campus with about 12 to 15,000 students, right? So in order for you to understand and digest and make sense of what a college is pitching on their website, it always helps to have an understanding of what does a small school look like? What does a mid-sized school look like? What does a large school look like if they say they have about 30,000 students on campus? What does it mean if it's an urban setting? What is the feel of a college town? All of these really matter in laying the groundwork so that when you really start to dive deep and you are trying to vet colleges and figure out which one is a good fit for you, you know what those numbers mean and what those descriptions mean on the website. So even if you look at Georgia State, right, you can absolutely explore all of these different types of schools within the state itself, and you don't even have to drive that far. If you're looking for a small campus, go ahead and visit Mercer. Mercer has under 5,000 students. It is in Macon, Georgia. I wouldn't exactly call it a college town, because the city of Macon does have a lot going on outside, but Mercer is a pretty small school, right? Then if you want to look at an urban school, go ahead and look at Georgia State's campus. It is as urban as it gets. There are no walls. Georgia State's buildings are kind of interwoven into the city's buildings. So it's kind of hard to tell where Georgia State begins and the city ends, and vice versa. If you're looking for a large school, go ahead and look at UGA. UGA has about 28,000 students on their campus. It is a large campus. They have North Campus. You have to take buses sometimes to get from point A to point B. It isn't like you just roll out of your bed in your dorm and you can walk for 10 minutes and get to class, right? It is a little bit of a different feel. Athens is also the quintessential college town. So explore Athens and look to see what the vibe is like within the town and also on campus. And then, of course, Georgia Tech is kind of a mid-sized school, and so is Georgia State. So within the state of Georgia, I think especially in 9th and 10th grade, visit the schools not from a point of view of, okay, they are a prospective college and I'm going to apply to them, but visit them. And even if you're driving outside of the state, to get a feel for what these different types of schools feel like. And I guarantee you that if you do this often enough, there will come a time when you pull up a college's website, you read a description, and you're going to be able to say, whether as a student or as a parent, this is not going to work for me. This is not what I'm looking for. Here's where I feel most comfortable, right? So the reason I put a lot of effort into helping students build shortlists is because as a college counselor, it is important to me that when students go through the college admissions process, they emerge at the other end feeling successful, right? And what that means is that you should get more acceptances than you do denials. That's really where I want every student to be at the end of the college application process. So that when you're sitting down in March as a senior and you're trying to figure out where you should attend, you should have choices in front of you. And you should be able to make an informed decision on where you want to attend and not have to choose one college because it was the only college that accepted you. And whether that happens for you or not is completely a function of how you build your shortlist. And here's what I mean by that, right? If you're going to build your shortlist in a way where you have maybe a couple of safeties, as in, you're going to get into those colleges, right? And the rest of the schools on your list are either reaches or far reaches, as in it is going to be a stretch, like you don't exactly have the numbers that the college is looking for, or you don't have the profile that the college is looking for. That is not a good way to go through it, because at the end of the day, I don't care what students tell me in junior year, because I will tell you that there is a sense of bravado, when it comes to this in junior year. It doesn't feel good when you get denied by a college, because it's almost like a negation of everything that you've done for 3 years. So when students build their shortlist, I will say, I love to see, maybe if they were applying to 10 schools, and 10 schools, 8 to 10 is a decent number. If you start to go above 10, then your workload really starts to go up. And then you really want to ask yourself, why am I applying to these schools, right? So if you were applying to 10 schools, I would love to see a couple of safeties, a couple of reaches, and the bulk of the schools on your list would be schools that we call target schools, schools that you have a really good chance of getting into. And the way you size yourself up and determine whether a college is a safety, target, or a reach for you is to look at 2 sets of numbers. And these are the most tangible things that you can look at, because once you start to look at the way you've developed your profile and what you have, that becomes a very subjective read, by the college admissions officer. So the 2 sets of numbers are the mid 50%, right? So where do you fall in that mid 50% with the SAT or ACT score that you have presenting? and the acceptance rate. So if you are on the higher end of the mid 50%, you know you are competitive for that school. Also, when it comes to acceptance rates, this is how I break it down. If you're looking at a school that has a 25 to 30% acceptance rate or lower, they're considered extremely selective. So your Vandy's fall into this bucket. I don't know, your, let's say, Tufts, all of the IVs, Carnegie Mellon, all of the brand name schools that most people know about will all fall into that bucket. Between about 30% to say 55 to 60% is target range. And what's target for one student will look very different for what's target for another student. So it just depends on your GPA and the rigor on your transcript. And if you're trying to figure out what target is for you, I'm going to encourage you to talk to your school counselors because they will be able to put it within context. And then, of course, if we're looking at 65% and above acceptance rates, those are generally safeties for most students because they will accept more students than they will deny. So these are the things that you would really should be looking at. Also pay attention to things when you're vetting colleges. Look at location. If you are a child that was born in Georgia and grew up in Georgia, and now all of a sudden you're looking at a college in Boston, think about that for a second. What is it going to feel like when you're cooped up in your dorm for 6 months in the year because there's snow on the ground and it is just frigid outside and you're not going to be able to get out? Mental health issues, especially in college towns or on campuses where there are extended winters, is a real thing and should be considered, right? So if you don't embrace cold weather and you don't see yourself trudging through campus with a backpack on your back when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, maybe you shouldn't be looking at colleges in that geographical location. So all of those things matter. Also, life outside of the classroom. What do you want to do for fun? You should find things to do for fun because college at the end of the day is your home away from home for the next 4 years. And you should pay attention to what is it that feeds your soul? Is it available on campus? Are you going to be able to find people who are like-minded, who will be able to engage with you on the things that are important to you? And, if you want to study abroad, if you want to work on co-ops, those are things to consider as well. And also pay attention to the semester and quarter system. There is a big, big difference in how colleges go through academics, if they're on the semester system or if they're on the quarter system. The semester system is familiar to most of y'all because your high school will either be on a semester system or it'll be on something similar, right? Like it's an extended year, but you have fall semester and spring semester specifically. The quarter system is where you take sometimes 2 or 3 classes. You take it only for 6 weeks, but it is intense. Those 6 weeks are packed and you cover the entire year's worth of curriculum in 6 weeks. And then you usually get about 3 or 4 days, a break between every quarter, and then you do it all over again. Also with the quarter system, you tend to start much later or earlier, depending on whether the school is a co-op school. And also you end much later. Where most colleges will finish, usually in May, some of the schools that are on quarter systems sometimes will not finish until the end of June. So these are things you want to pay attention to, right? Because it changes your ability as a student to come home. I don't know if you want to come back and see your other friends, if there's absolutely no overlap, and if that is something that's important to you, pay attention to that. The criteria that I do not want either students or parents to consider are number 1, rankings and brand name. And here's why I say rankings. Most times a ranking is just kind of like a flash in the pan. Like it tells you, oh, these colleges are ranked, top schools for pursuit of a liberal arts education. What they really don't tell you, and what is hard to find, is what were the criteria that went into those rankings, right? It is okay to use rankings as a starting point to say, I don't even know which colleges offer the program that I'm looking for. But it needs to end there. And then when you vet individual schools, you really want to think about, like, is that school really right for me? Brand name also is something it doesn't matter what family we're talking to from which part of the country. brand names are always on the forefront. And there is nothing wrong with brand name schools, but don't assume that just because they're a brand name school that they're a good fit for you. Ideally, you want to insert yourself into an undergraduate education setting where you are challenged academically, but you're not drowning in what they're putting out. And also that you have enough time and the bandwidth to engage in activities outside of the classroom. So the last bullet point on this slide is a YouTube video. Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors, and I think everybody should watch this video. It's about 20 minutes long. And if you just Google, why did I say yes to speak here? It is Malcolm Gladwell's speech at a Google Zeitgeist. And what he talks about is exactly this. You know, he goes about it in a very scientific way to talk about how graduate students actually submit research when they're at selective institutions and non-selective institutions. And he talks about which students actually thrive in these environments. So I would encourage everybody to definitely find that video on YouTube and watch it. I'm going to pause for a second here, and I'm going to throw it out to any of my students or any of the other students in the audience. If y'all can just talk really briefly about where you started when you were building your shortlist in junior year, and whether that perception changed as you went through the college application process and when you were at the point where you were ready to put a deposit down. Anyone?
Anushka, do you want to take that question? Or Jyotsna? Yeah, Jyotsna, you're too. Yeah, you can unmute.
Hello everyone, how are you? So actually I'm a music therapy major, which it's a little hard to discover like, okay, which schools have music therapy, like what's the word? Like which school teaches music therapy, has music therapy majors, right? So that was my first priority, that it has that they offer a music therapy major. So yes, like Miss Modgal was saying, rankings. I used rankings to kind of decide, okay, which colleges might be best for me to like put on my list based on that. So that's kind of how it started, and then in that short list, I kind of organized like my reach schools, my easy schools, my target schools in that way. Some of the schools on my list obviously did not offer music therapy majors because there aren't that many in America. However, so for those colleges, I kind of looked at like, okay, would this be a good fit for me? Maybe I can see myself living there. Some of the other majors that they offer would be something that I would be interested in. So that's kind of also what I looked at. And then finally, when it came to like choosing my college that I wanted to go to, it all happened slightly because of process of elimination, and also because of kind of what, like financially, what I could afford, and also like what I wanted to do in the future in college. So I ended up going to University of Miami, which did end up having a music therapy major. So that was wonderful. I ended up getting a scholarship there. So financially, that was affordable for me. And also, I get to live in Miami. So it was a good fit for my lifestyle as well. So I know it's probably a crazy time, just like, okay, there's so many colleges. What do I do? Where do I like, where do I look to like make my list? Like, how big should my list be? How long should it be? And I guess people can give you like average answers, like, oh, you should apply there, like everyone's applying there. But it's good to take advice from different people, but like just think about what you see yourself doing in college. That's your first priority, because if you try to kind of follow what other people are telling you to do, then when you get to college and you're by yourself and you are responsible for your homework and your grades, you're going to feel a bit alone. You're going to feel a bit lost. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Jyotsna. That was very helpful. So let's move on. I want to make sure I wrap up with enough time for questions. So talking now about application types and application deadlines. So there are 3 types of applications available. Once a student has crafted their shortlist and now they're looking to see, okay, what do I need to do to get myself to the point to actually submitting an application and the supporting documentation. The first is the Common App. So the Common Application is one application that is used by over, oh gosh, at this point, I think it's like 900 plus schools. So the ease of using the Common App lies in the fact that you complete the application only once, and then you're able to submit to multiple schools. The only place where there are variations is in the supplemental essays that colleges will require. So you write one essay, which is the personal statement, and then sometimes colleges will have supplemental essays, which are really essays that you write and that ask questions that are targeted towards them. So for example, why us? Why do you want to come to us? Things like that. The coalition application is relatively newer compared to the Common App. The coalition it's a much smaller coalition. I think they're up to about, I want to say 250 to 300 schools at this time. It's the same concept as the Common App. You complete the coalition application once and you're able to apply to multiple schools. And sometimes colleges have their own in-house applications, right? So UGA, for example, uses the coalition, the Common App, and they have an in-house application. When you build your list, there is no right or wrong in terms of which application you use. That having been said, I will say the Common App has a lot more support built in, and it tends to showcase the student a little bit better. But when you're choosing which application to complete, you should really choose whatever makes your life easiest. So for example, if you're applying to 10 colleges and 7 of them take the Common App, I would just use the Common App for those 7 schools. If the other 3 have between a combination of an in-house application or the coalition, then unfortunately you're going to have to do whatever is easiest for the other 3, right? In terms of deadline, there are different deadlines that are offered by different schools. So I just want to break down the language a little bit. We're not going to dive into strategy at this point, but just want to explain the terminology. If a college has a rolling deadline, what that means is there's no set date by which you have to submit your application. You submit your application whenever you're done, and they'll usually get you a response within like 2 to 3 weeks after you submit your application. Early action is a non-binding deadline. So the early action deadlines usually come up in October, sometimes November. And what it means is that if you are ready to submit your application by the early action deadline, you go ahead and submit it, and the college will give you a response, usually by winter break or early January in some cases, right? It is non-binding, which means you are not making a commitment. You're not saying, I will come to you if you offer me admission. You're not committing yourself to any one institution. It just means that your application is ready. You're going to submit it early so you can hear back early. Sometimes applying early also shows that you're more interested in a school than other schools. And so there's really no reason to not apply early action if your application is ready, right? Early decision is the one that you have to be a little bit careful about. Early decision is an application type where you are making a commitment and you're telling the college, I'm going to apply by your ED deadline. And if you accept me, I will come. And that means that I really don't care about whether you're going to offer me financial aid or not. I have already crunched the numbers. I know that this is doable. You are the one school for me, so I'm all in. If you apply ED, there are limitations to where else you can apply early. So in most cases, you cannot apply early to any other private schools. You can apply early to state schools, but it does change the way you approach the application process. ED is not for everybody. You should single-mindedly know that that college is the place for you. And also, there should be an appetite for the family to pay whatever the college is going to ask for, right? Regular decision is just that. It is a regular deadline. The deadlines usually come up in January. And that is usually the last deadline by which you can apply to most colleges. So it is just that. So if you apply ED to one school, then you would have to apply regular decision to all of the other schools. The last deadline that I want to point out is something called a scholarship deadline. It's also called a priority deadline. So if colleges offer scholarships sometimes, they will ask you to submit your application by a certain date so that you can be considered for all of those merit scholarships. So Auburn, for example, has a scholarship deadline of December 1. Georgia Tech, if you apply by the October 15th early action deadline, your name gets thrown in the hat automatically for scholarships. So if you're going to apply to the school and you can get your application done in time by the scholarship or priority deadlines, I would definitely encourage students to do that. So I'm going to finish with scholarships and financial aid. So there are two types of financial aid forms that colleges will generally ask families to complete. The first is called the FAFSA. It's the free application for federal student aid. It opens on October 1 of the student's senior year, and parents will generally complete the FAFSA with what is called prior year's taxes. So the way you want to think about it is that as a parent, if you're completing the FAFSA in October of your student's senior year, you will complete it using the tax information that you just filed in the April prior, right? So that's a general rule of thumb. Most colleges will ask for FAFSA, and I would say regardless of whether you believe you will receive financial aid or not, it is a good idea to complete the FAFSA because sometimes colleges will use it as proof of lawful presence just to make sure you're in the country legally. So that's something you definitely want to do. Every college has its own internal deadline for FAFSA, and that does not tie in with the application deadline. So the earliest financial aid deadlines usually come up in December of the student's senior year, and then they kind of move forward from there. Besides the FAFSA, there is another financial aid application called the CSS. Oh, I'm sorry, just one other thing. Please make sure that if you're completing the FAFSA, you go to the right website, and I think it's fafsa.ed.gov. It's a .gov website, and you should never ever pay money to complete the FAFSA. That's why it's called the free application for federal student aid. There are a lot of other sites that make you pay a fee, and you want to stay away from those. The second financial aid application is called the CSS. It's also called the profile. It also opens on October 1, and it can be found on College Board's website. So the CSS is used primarily by private schools. The only two public schools that I'm aware of that use it are Georgia Tech and Michigan. So when colleges have endowment money, which is private money, in their coffers, they use the CSS to make determinations on who gets it. So CSS money is not tied either to merit or need most of the time, which is why I tell students that if you're applying to a school that will accept the CSS, please go ahead and complete it, because you never know if you're going to get money or not, right? And ideally, at the end of the day, as you move through the college application process, as a parent or a student, you want to make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. And this would be one way of doing it. Besides that, there are two types of scholarships. There are community scholarships and college scholarships. College scholarships are the ones clearly that colleges offer. You will find that information on their scholarship page. If you're considering applying to any of those and you feel like you meet the criteria, make sure you're paying attention to the deadline and noting whether it changes the deadline by which you apply to the college as a whole. Community scholarships are anything right from your $500 Lions Club scholarship all the way to your $20,000 Coca-Cola scholarship and a whole bunch of others. If your high school uses Naviance, there are usually lists available in Naviance for community scholarships, or you can also look at portals such as fastweb.com, scholarships.com, and there are hundreds of scholarships there. And that ends our presentation for this morning. So I am going to open it up to questions at this point. Thank you.
Vishrut will ask the questions that were actually posted in the chat, Ms. Morgan. I'll unmute Vishrut.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mudgul, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure this helped answer many questions students and parents had. So we have selected a few questions from the chat to answer in our 20-minute Q&A session. We have approximately, I think, 9. The first question is this, about AP exams. What does it mean when colleges only consider AP exams for placement and not for anything else?
There we go. What it means is that, if you look at the SAT and ACT, right, the colleges will actually use your scores to determine whether you are a good fit for their school or not. But when it comes to AP exam scores, they're not factoring that into the decision. So for example, let's just say you did really well on the SAT and you got a 1580 out of a 1600, but your AP exam scores are not that hot. So maybe you got a 2 on a couple of exams, you got a 3 on one and maybe a 5 on the other. They are not going to look at the SAT scores and say, oh my gosh, the student is a really strong student, but their AP exam scores do not match up. So maybe we need to rethink the student. So they're not going to consider that at all. But if you look at AP exam scores, the reason you take an AP exam is so that if you earn the prerequisite score, then you can place out of that class in college and you don't have to take it. And that's what I mean by placement. So if you pass the US history exam with a 5 or a 4, the college is going to say, okay, you already took a college level course in high school. You earned the prerequisite score, so now you don't need to take US history as your gen ed credit in freshman year.
Thank you. The next question is, what do you think about taking help from external college prep agencies?
I will say that is the family's prerogative. And I'm going to tell you where I come from. And my students who are in the audience have heard me say this before. This is the way I look at it. If you are going to send your child off to college and have them be responsible for decision-making once they are a freshman, I would want to know that they can navigate the college application process themselves. There are several presentations that are conducted, there are high school counselors that will make presentations to students, which will give you everything you need to know in order to get through the process. If you're going to use an outside college counselor, right? I mean, again, that is certainly your prerogative, but I'm wondering how actively your child is going to be involved in that process. Are they processing information for themselves? Are they trying to make sense of it? Are they reaching out when they don't understand something? Are they actively navigating it and successfully, which will then tell you as a parent that they can do this on their own when they're on campus and they're by themselves. And I think I would want to know that my child can do that before I send them off. And I think some of that is taken away when you employ a college consultant, because they, again, are helping you figure things out. They are the active voice. And also, you always have to be careful in how much help you get with your essays, because if a consultant's voice is a little too loud, it comes through on the essay and it stifles the student's voice. And that would never be a good thing when you're applying to college.
Okay. The next question is it better to apply early or regular?
So here's how I will answer that question. As I mentioned before, an early decision application is definitely not the right thing for every family, because the finances have to line up. Your students should be single-minded about that particular school. But early action, there is no reason not to apply early action, because all that means is that you get your application ready by that deadline, and that way you can hear back from the college earlier. The one thing I want to point out, and this is more about strategy, if you look at a school like Tulane, for example, right? So Tulane has an early action deadline. They have 2 ED deadlines. They have an ED1 and an ED2 deadline, and then they have a regular decision deadline. In a case where a college has multiple ED deadlines and they have an early action deadline, If you apply by the regular decision deadline, that is going to be an extremely competitive pool because they would have already recruited from the early rounds, both from students who are willing to commit and students who are applying early action because they feel they have what it takes to get into a school like Tulane. So it's a little bit more strategic there, which is why I tell students, if there is an early action deadline available and you're not committing to anything, that would be a good way to go, unless you see that your profile, and I'm looking at the tangible numbers like your mid 50% SAT or ACT score, or your mid 50%, let's just leave it at that, is so far out from the norm that you're not competitive.
These next two questions are about scholarships. So the first one is, do colleges give scholarships to early decision applicants? The second one is, are there any scholarship programs available for international students?
So with respect to ED, I will say that if a student applies ED, the college is determining that finances are not an issue, and the student will come regardless of the package they put in front of the student. So in most cases, you will not get a financial aid package back when you receive your decision from an ED application. And number two, there really is no incentive for the college to offer, especially merit scholarships, to ED students, because they know that even if they don't offer that money, the student has already committed to coming. So that's one thing you really have to keep in mind when you apply ED, which is why I say the finances definitely have to line up. As for scholarships for international students, there are scholarships available. It just depends on the college. And I would say once you've done your research and you've kind of put your shortlist together, you definitely want to get on the college's scholarship page to see if they offer scholarships, especially for international students. But there definitely are ones available.
So this next question is, what are the cons of taking a gap year?
That's a good question. So let me just look back to the past couple of years and tell you why some students took a gap year. Some students that applied 2 cycles ago took a gap year because they anticipated the pandemic kind of continuing the following year. And they were like, I don't want to be doing online schooling, when the college is not offering in-person classes. So I think that is legitimate. But regardless of why you want to take a gap year, I think a gap year is effective only if you have a plan in place for what you're going to do during that 1 year. Are you going to be working a job? Are you going to be traveling the world with purpose? Are you going to be able to develop certain skills that you will have to present to somebody at the end of that year when you take a gap year? If you don't have a solid plan, I don't think it's a good idea, because the other downside to taking a gap year is that students lose momentum. So if you're in the zone as a senior in high school and you know how to study, you know how to put in the time, you're disciplined, you get it done, and all of a sudden you move into an entire year when there are no constraints on your time at all. My question is, what are you going to do with that, right? And so if you find it hard to get back in the zone when you get back on campus after a break of a year as a freshman, then you truly want to think about what that gap year is going to do for you.
So this next question is, does it really matter how many times you take the SAT or ACT tests, and does it affect the admissions process?
So it doesn't matter. You can take it as many times as you want to take it. But like I said, if a student is going to take the SAT or ACT, whether it's a second time or a third time or a fourth time, I want to know that you are truly doing something different in terms of prep before you take it a second or a third time. Because otherwise you're not going to see the gains that you want to see. And then that can be frustrating. From an admissions perspective, there are very few schools. Well, actually, let me take a step back. So there are several colleges that do what they call super scoring, right? So what they will say is that if you took the SAT or the ACT multiple times, we're going to take the highest score from each section across multiple sittings. We're going to put that together and create a super score which shines the best light on you. And that's what we're going to use. There are more schools that superscore the SAT than do the ACT. And so when a college superscores, then you would send, if you took it 5 times, you would send all of your scores to them and then they will kind of figure it out. But there are also some schools, like some of the Ivies, and I think Yale is an example, where regardless of the superscoring aspect, they want to see every test that you've taken. Even if one of the subsections does not contribute towards the superscore. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know why they asked that. All I will say is that if they ask that, they're clearly reading into progression or something else on that end. But more than anything else, keeping the student in mind, the anxiety aspect of this, I would say 3 is kind of average. And again, you want to make sure that you're being very purposeful every time that you choose to take it again.
Okay. The next question is, someone would like you to shed more light on the importance of volunteering.
Okay, Vishruth, you faded out there a little bit. I'm assuming you want me to talk about volunteering?
Yeah, the importance of volunteering and shadowing.
Yeah. So shadowing, I think you're talking mostly about students that are looking to go in the medical field, and that is extremely valuable. I'll position this 2 ways. You want to shadow and you want to do volunteer work within organizations for the reason that it helps you learn more about that industry, and hopefully it'll help guide you and help you understand whether that's something that you could look at as a career or not, right? From the other perspective, which is what kind of student does that make you when you set foot on your undergraduate campus? I think volunteering and community service are extremely important because at the high school level, it teaches students to think beyond themselves and to think about ways that they can give back to their community, but it also forces students to step out of their comfort zone sometimes and make connections with people they don't know and navigate a new landscape. And that as a soft skill is extremely valuable when you set foot on campus as a freshman in college and you know nobody, right? And now the way you make a large school smaller for yourself is by participating in clubs and organizations and finding your people within those clubs and organizations. And if you don't have the practice having done it in high school, you are going to hesitate to do it in college, and then it doesn't make for as much of a good experience for you in college. So I think that is the value. But that being said, colleges, in terms of your resume, will always value community service. And so that's something to think about as well.
This next question is, how would I go about understanding the cost for college education?
That's a very good question. So if you get on a college's website, right, most times when they talk about the undergraduate price tag, that is ticket price, but not everybody pays ticket price. So on every college's website, in the search bar, if you type in net price calculator, it will bring up a financial calculator that is required to be available on every college's website. That financial calculator will estimate the cost of attendance for the student based on the parent's financial situation. So the net price calculator can be a quick, 10-minute questionnaire where they ask you a few questions about the family's income and a few other things, and then they will spit out a cost of attendance. Now, one thing to remember is that the cost of attendance does not include merit scholarships. So if the student ends up earning merit scholarships, that is icing on the cake. But the net price calculator is always good to work, especially for out-of-state schools. For our students here, because the out-of-state schools will not have the Hope Scholarship, available to the students.
This next question is, what is the difference between test optional and test blind, and do all colleges consider superscoring?
So not all colleges will consider superscoring. And if a college superscores, it will definitely be listed on the college's undergraduate admissions page. So you want to pay attention to that. The difference between test blind and test optional, if a college is test blind, like the UC system, the University of California system went this year, even if you submit a test score, they're not going to look at it. right? Because they have told themselves that in their evaluation of a student, the test scores do not matter. In a test optional school, you have the ability to submit a test score if you have been happy with it. And then again, the college will evaluate you using that test score as part of your file. So that is the main difference. With test blind schools, they just won't even consider it if you send it in.
Okay, I think this concludes our Q&A session with Ms. Madgul. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question, just ask it again in the breakout rooms, and I'm sure every student will answer it for you. I think I can pass it on to Diwakar.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Vishrut. I am Diwakar, President for Nrupatunga Kannada Koota for this year. Wow, it was such a great session. As a parent, I found this very informative session and answered most of my questions. And I'm sure you all found this session and the profound guidance from the panel to be very helpful. Our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed guest, Sumana Moudgal, for your comprehensively informative presentation. And Nrupatunga Kannada Koota is highly appreciative of your time. Yeah, thank you so very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So moving on with the session, Supriya will share more information about breakout rooms and other details. Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that we got a lot of feedback on the chat and my personal chat also, that this was really helpful, Sumana, and you are amazing. So thank you again.
No, thank you, Mangla. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. So Shri Priya, I'll unmute you and you can go ahead with the next. Yeah, go ahead next. Thank you.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can.
So yeah, I'm Shri Priya, and now we're going to be breaking out into smaller groups. There are 5 breakout rooms, one for Georgia Tech, one for Emory, one for UGA, one for out-of-state colleges, and there's also a main session, which will include 2nd and 3rd year students. The main session will be focused more on campus life, dorms, etc. You can join and drop out of the breakout rooms as you wish, but you can only be in one of them at a time. And all of the sessions are going to be recorded. And at this time, I would like to ask all the student speakers to turn on their video. Okay. So in the Georgia Tech session, we have Kirti Bhardwaj, who's a first-year student majoring in math in the business pathway. Vishrat Madhusudan, a first-year student majoring in industrial engineering with a minor in computer science. And Rohan Shiknis, a first-year student majoring in computer science. For the Emory session, we have Advik Bhardwaj, who is a first-year student studying neuroscience and behavioral biology, and Anushka Jain, a first-year student majoring in quantitative science with the biology track. For the session on out-of-state colleges, we have Jyotsna Rao, a second-year student at University of Miami, who is majoring in music therapy with a minor in psychology. In the main session, we have Amu Gadekar, a second-year neuroscience major with a health, medicine, and society minor, who is following the pre-med track at Georgia Tech. We also have Varsha Ramachandra, a third-year student at UGA, majoring in biology with a minor in women's studies. She's on the pre-veterinary track. Finally, I'm Shri Priya Srinivas, a freshman at UGA. I'm majoring in biological engineering. And if you all want to know more about the student speakers, you can read their bios, which were sent out in the email regarding this seminar. Okay, I hope I didn't miss out on anything else.
So I'm opening all the rooms now, so everybody can join, and I'm also going to unmute and I'll give you everybody an opportunity to unmute themselves. Thank you. So all kids can go to your respective rooms. Let me know if you are able to see the breakout rooms. And please go to the breakout rooms and you can talk to the students. Shripriya, you can go to UGA and everyone else also. I hope you are seeing the rooms.
Mangala, I'm not able to see the room.
Oh, okay.
I'm able to see. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. There are rooms with respect to the colleges. So breakout rooms will be available on the Zoom itself. You can see, you can click on the breakout rooms and join the room that you want to. There will be a join right next to the name, and then you can choose the room that you want to go to.
Shripriya, are you having any trouble getting into the UGA breakout room?
Yeah, I don't see it on my screen anymore.
Okay, so it's at the breakout rooms is one of the options at the bottom of the screen, right next to where you see record option, right next to reactions at the bottom. You don't see it?
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Okay. Have you logged in from your computer or the phone?
The computer.
Okay.
So you're not able to see the room?
No.
Okay. Let me admit you, okay? Just give me a second.
Okay.
Stop the video. Varsha and Amog, we have some people in the main session as well. So if you have any insights that you can share about college life and, Varsha, you're doing, I know, internship, and Amog, I know you're a sophomore and you're doing a lot of things in volunteering and all that. So you guys can just share your experiences, and people can ask questions depending on that.
Sure. So I'm a third year here at UGA. I'm a bio major on the pre-veterinary track. I will apply to vet school next year. If you have any questions about, the application process or what UGA is like, feel free to ask questions. Amog, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a second year at Georgia Tech and I'm majoring in neuroscience. I'm on the pre-med track, so I guess in some ways there are similarities to the pre-vet track. Yeah, I've been involved in many different things I got on campus. I'm a part of student government. I do research. I also do volunteer at other locations. And if you have any questions about that or anything pertaining to applying to medical schools, I can do my best to answer them as well.
Yeah, I see some people on the call. Anybody has questions?
I got a question.
Sure.
I don't know how, like, whether you guys applied for Georgia Tech and for UGA. So if you guys did, any of you did, what was the difference in experience and expectations between the two?
Amog, you want to take that?
Yeah, I got it. I guess one big difference was the way I applied. I think for Georgia Tech, I applied through the common application because I think at the time Georgia Tech was a part of that. And then for UGA, I had to apply separately on its in-house application, which was a little different and a little more cumbersome because I had to manage two different application styles and platforms. But aside from that, I feel that they were pretty similar. Georgia Tech and UGA, obviously, they offer different majors. I know UGA doesn't have a neuroscience major, but Georgia Tech also does not have a cell and molecular biology major. And so for UGA and GT, I had to apply to those majors differently. And I think also looking at the different resources and things you can do at each university was different as well. For UGA, I had to look a little harder at what the different research opportunities were. And since it is a larger school, they were able to publicize more of their biology related research programs. But at Georgia Tech, it's a little different because it's a tech school. So there are a lot of engineering opportunities, and sometimes those engineering opportunities are intertwined with other disciplines like biology or psychology. So I had to look around that and see what I'm interested in. And I think that's been really helpful because now I'm researching at a neuroengineering lab. So I have neuroscience and engineering combined into something that I think is interesting. So really, from the application styles to what each school offered and what they were good at were definitely things that were different, and the majors they offered too.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, what about the expectations on their side? Like, were there difference in terms of your GPAs, your SATs, or community service, or whatever else, or were they pretty much the same? Did you find a pattern between the two, or differences between the two?
I don't want to say I noticed a specific pattern because when I applied to both of them, I felt like it was, I don't know, I put everything out there. So I basically gave Georgia Tech and UGA the same information because that's what I did in my high school years. But I will say that for UGA, they do have another step forward when it comes to UGA honors. And so I know for that, it is a little more specific. And I can say that the application or the acceptance, I personally believe that the acceptance rate or the acceptance specificity is the same, is for GT and UGA honors are very similar because a lot of students will get into UGA, or hopefully will get into UGA, but getting into UGA honors is definitely a harder step. And I know some friends who are very qualified and they've gone to other great universities, but they were not accepted to UGA honors, which is a little interesting. But yeah, I think they both have pretty similar standards. It just depends on where you want to go and what do you want to do.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I had a quick question to all the students studying. If you guys had to redo the application process, or if you were given another opportunity to go back to high school, what would you have done differently, or something that you should have done?
I would say one thing is probably if I could go back, I would have applied to less schools. So I applied to 14 because I really wasn't sure where I wanted to go and I didn't want to limit my options. And I got into 13 out of the 14. So going back, I think I knew that UGA was where I wanted to be, but I didn't want to feel like I was limiting options. But in that process, I put in a lot of, work and time into filling out all of these applications when most of them were schools that I knew I wasn't really going to go to at the end of the day. So I would say maybe like think hard about each of the colleges that you're going to apply to. Make sure that if you get in, you would actually consider going there. Definitely have safety schools as well, but yeah, I would just say, think about each school. If you are able to, tour them or at the very least learn a little bit about them and their programs so that you're not putting effort into an application for a university that you won't attend, even if you get in.
Thanks. That was helpful. Anybody else wants to take this?
I guess my side of that is maybe figuring out what I wanted to do. I think in my family, was the first one to go to high school like that. Not the first one to go to high school, but in the United States, I think I was like the first one to kind of experience what that is and then go through the application process. So I learned a lot, and I'm definitely telling my sister what to do and what not to do, or what she wants to do. She should explore that. And I think that's something that Ms. Mugdal, I believe I'm saying that right. That's what she said, and I truly believe that if you do what you want to do and explore the things that you want to explore, then you will have a more fruitful experience in high school, and you'll be able to understand, oh, maybe I want to do this thing in the future, maybe I want to explore this more in college. So yeah, maybe not trying to follow what everyone else is saying, or maybe not joining all the clubs that your friends are joining, but being able to see what you like and then move forward with that, because it'll make your application much more real.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Big thing, because when you do get to like college, you're gonna be stressed out. So also like make sure you're like enjoying high school. I wouldn't say you necessarily need like summer activities to get into college, because I know a lot of kids didn't do that and they were gone to college completely fine. As long as you focus during the school year, you can like enjoy your summers still.
Yeah, the next question is, does Georgia Tech offer pre-med courses? What options, the options I have for pre-med in Georgia State? Okay, Rohan?
So I think that this question is asking like if there are any other pre-med options like in the state of Georgia. So specifically at Georgia Tech, they basically how pre-med works is it's not a major, it's basically like a minor. So you just declare a pre-med track, and then you have to take like several classes in biology, chemistry, and there's some other classes you have to take. So here, what a lot of people do is they either take a bio major or a chem major, which is like pretty hard, but not like
still take classes in different subjects and things like that. I do know a lot of people, especially, with the pre-med track, obviously a lot of them come in saying they're pre-med, and then, sometimes that changes along the way. I'm sure Amon can also talk.
So while wait, I had a question. So about the merit scholarship, like Anushka, do you have any idea of how that outside of Hope and Zalmila, right? Like, is there, what's the process? If you guys know, we can share some information on that.
Yeah, sure. So there's obviously a lot of different kinds of merit scholarships. So first, Emory offers their own merit scholarships. They have something called an Emory Scholars Program, and you can apply to that. It's a little bit of an earlier deadline compared to the regular decision, but it's not binding. It's just you're submitting your application earlier so that you can be considered for that. And that scholarship can be anywhere from a couple $1,000s to full tuition.
Years with the classes I took and the people that I met, I kind of liked it more. And in terms of like the major and the career field that I want to go into, I guess I kind of knew I always wanted to do
classes, or if you're taking like classes specific to your major, which is usually in your second year or like second semester of first year. So what I did was actually most of my classes are not first year classes. So I'm taking multivariable calculus, chemistry, physics, and some engineering related classes. But my chemistry and physics are freshman classes. So those classes are around 70 to 90 students. but all of my other classes have around 20 students. So yeah, but if you're in general, like if
of how you can move forward and use your interests and help them evolve and grow for the future. So yeah.
That was really helpful. Thank you, guys.
If they've not already asked, can you talk about some scholarships? Like what, I know you can apply for scholarships when you are actually applying for a college, but is there anything that I can do once I get into the college? Can I get some kind of money from somewhere to help me pay for my tuitions or dorm and anything of that sort?
Sure. So I can talk about so scholarships before and after applying. So I was a National Merit finalist and I did get the National Merit Scholarship as well. So if anyone has questions about that or how, you know, the application process and as you progress, how that works, I'm happy to answer those. I'm also an ambassador of the UGA Honors College. Like Amog was talking about, it is getting pretty competitive now, but if you have any questions about the Honors College at UGA, feel free to ask. It is a really awesome place to be. And they do also offer scholarships, you know, after application and after being accepted throughout your 4 years at UGA. They do a lot of scholarships, especially for study abroad and research stipends, which are great opportunities if, you know, you're interested in doing either research pre-med school or just research in general, or if, you know, you're interested in studying abroad for a Maymester or a full semester or however long. So yeah, there are tons of scholarship opportunities before and after you are admitted to a college.
Yeah, adding on to what you said, there are different scholarship opportunities, and there are also the different scholarship opportunities that are out there can depend on different audiences. So there are financial based scholarships for those who need financial aid. There are merit-based scholarships for those who, you know, who don't necessarily need financial aid, but would like to get it because they've been working on something so hard. And this can be done through different programs at your university or through external organizations, because I know that there are many organizations that offer merit-based scholarships for those who deserve it. I can speak more about research scholarships because at Georgia Tech, I know many people have talked to my advisor about this, but at schools like UGA and Georgia Tech and Emory and other schools, they really encourage student research and they really encourage that progression of knowledge. So there are different scholarships that help you pay for research or make your time during research more fruitful in a sense. And at Georgia Tech, there's something called the PURA Award. And there's also something called the DePettit Biomolecular Engineering Award. And just like that, there are different awards for each major and each school so that they can promote student growth and learning. And further, if you are planning on traveling to different conferences to present your research, they also do offer stipends on that note. And it's really worth noting that you can talk to professors and advisors about this because they would also know about this since they're the ones conducting research while they're not teaching a class. And really building off that, it is possible to get scholarships after graduating or after being enrolled in college.
Okay, thank you. So this is for Varsha. So you chose the vet major, right? Veterinarian major. So do you have to study more after your 4 years of undergrad, or do you have to start doing residency and then get into the practice?
Yeah, so I am on the pre-veterinary track. I'm just a regular bio major. There's no such thing as a pre-vet major at most colleges, honestly. So I'm taking pretty much the same classes that a pre-med student would take. And so it's very similar to med school. So I apply to vet schools. Next year, the application will open in January. And then just like med school, it's a 4-year post-grad program. You get your doctorate of veterinary medicine at the end of it. And then from there, it's, again, very similar to med school. If I want to specialize in anything, you know, internal medicine, neurosurgeon, like anything of that sort, you would do another anywhere from, you know, 1 to 4+ years after that. So it's pretty similar to med school, but obviously with animals instead.
So if you decide to treat humans instead of animals, you can still change that after 4 years? Is that what?
So if you know, as a junior, I decided I want to apply to med school instead of vet school, I could definitely do that because like I was saying, it's pretty much the same classes that I'm taking. So I fill all the same requirements that would be, you know, expected as a med school applicant. But once you're in vet school, it's it's a bit harder to switch.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely pre-applying, it's pretty similar requirement wise. So if I decided I wanted to be pre-med instead of pre-vet, it would be pretty easy right now for me to change my mind.
Okay. And I wanted to ask Amog about the study abroad options in Georgia Tech. So if you can throw some light on that, it would help. You know, we should at some point.
No, yeah, it's a very good thing to look at. I know there are a lot of study abroad opportunities. What they'll do sometimes is they'll essentially study abroads. There are two types of study abroads. There are the structured study abroads where Georgia Tech will organize housing and organize where you will go or when you'll be there. And then there's the non-structured one where there are referred to as student exchanges. So those are what students have more control of. And it's a little harder to do student exchanges because the student would have to determine which country, which university they want to go to. And then they'd also have to determine if the classes they take at that university will transfer over to Georgia Tech. So there's a lot more work on that side. But I'll speak more about the structured, I guess, study abroad programs. And they're different ones. I think some of the more popular ones are Georgia Tech Lorraine, Georgia Tech's Oxford program. I know for life sciences and chemical sciences, they have one in France, Lyon, France. They also have a Pacific program in Australia and New Zealand. And they have places all over the world, really. And essentially, what you'd want to do is first you have to apply for these study abroad programs. And then once you apply, they'll look at all the applications. They'll accept a group of students. Some programs will be larger than other programs. But once you do get accepted, then you'll have to select the classes that you want to take there. This is kind of the challenging part because generally you'd want to do study abroad program earlier. So maybe after your first year or maybe after your second year, because some of the classes that they offer, usually there would be prerequisite classes for other classes. So you'd want to take those classes earlier rather than pushing them off and then having a later graduation date, which is why advisors and professors recommend that you do study abroad programs earlier. And so once you do that, you select your classes, you go on the trip, and they have summer study abroad programs, they have fall study abroad programs, and they have spring study abroad programs. And once you're there, you're basically going to be taking those same classes with, I believe, Georgia Tech faculty, or they might be faculty from another university, but they work with Georgia Tech, and they will be, I think, on Georgia Tech campuses, or they'd be at some other university hosting them. I know some friends who went on a study abroad program this past summer. They went to Lorraine, France, and Georgia Tech, and they had a lot of fun. I think the schedule for them was Monday through Thursdays, they'd be in class. So they'd be taking however many classes, I think 3 to 4 classes. And then they'd have 3-day weekends every week. So Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they'd be free to, stay on the Georgia Tech campus in France and study. Or what a lot of people would do is they would travel all over Europe, because in Europe, traveling is much easier. Many countries are visa friendly, and also being in the European Union, you have access to use the train or fly around. So they would have those 3-day weekends to travel around, explore Europe, and then they'd come back Monday to Thursday, do classes, and then they could do it all again. So it's a very, very fun experience. Everyone who's done it really, really liked it. And when I talk to older college students or people who graduated from college, one of the most common regrets I've heard is not doing the study abroad program. So it's definitely worth looking into.
Okay, great. Then thank you. That was great information. Anybody else has any question? So yeah, one question for both of you is that if now that you are in college and like 2 years, 3 years into college, if you look back at your high school life, what would you have done differently? Yeah, maybe enjoyed more, or anything, or studied more, prepared more, or done something less. What are your feelings about that? Or maybe nothing. You had done everything perfectly. It's possible.
No, I would say, just in general, everyone will tell you this. Just don't forget to, just enjoy the high school experience. I know it's really easy to get sucked into, constantly worrying about grades and GPA and SAT scores. And obviously, those are all very important things. But, at the same time, those are really critical years of just, your teenage experience. So don't forget to, hang out with your friends, do fun stuff. And I know a lot of people that spent a lot of their high school years doing things that they thought would make them look good to colleges, but they weren't necessarily interested in or enjoying. So I would say, it's very important to, make sure you're doing things that you can put on your college application, but at the same time, make sure you're also doing things you're genuinely interested in and enjoying. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think balance is important. If you spend all your time doing work, and classes, you will really hate your high school years. But if you also spend all your time playing around or doing things that not necessarily helping you professionally, then you also won't be able to have that experience to learn or understand what it means to have a drive and ambition in a professional sense before you get to college. That being said, I think that a lot of times people who get worried will overstress the importance of doing so many things in high school, because once you get to college, whichever college you go to, you're in college, that's it. There's only one direction forward, and whatever you do from college there is like based on whatever your experience you build there. So I feel that in high school, you should really take the time to grow, not only professionally, but also personally. And that means if you are meeting new people and new friends, then you go have fun with them too. But if you also are interested in there's some organization that's doing some work or some internship, and you try doing your best to apply there as well, but not stressing yourself out in one area. I know that sometimes me or my friends would take a lot of hard classes in 1 year, and that would really decrease the amount of time we had for other things. So making sure that you don't stress yourself in that aspect as well. But yeah, after coming to college, I realized that there are a lot more things to do rather than like classes and internships, because everything else in life is important as well. So yeah.
Great. I think we got Advik and Anushka also, right? In the room now. Do we have them?
I'm here, yeah.
So yeah, Advik, I was just asking Amog and Varsha, because they were in this room, about like, if now that you're in college, what do you think you would have done differently in high school, if there is anything? And I just wanted to get your perspective. Like, what would be, or even not just in a good way, but like, the stress that you've taken, was it worth it, kind of things?
I honestly think it was not so worth it. I stressed over a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. I think many people do that. Even over like a single bad test grade, it really doesn't matter in the long run at all. And it doesn't, like, once you get to college, no one cares about what you did in high school, to be honest. So I'd say don't stress so much over every single thing. I mean, obviously you should care about your grades, care about preparing for what you want to do in the future, but I'd say don't be hyper focused, and don't attach your self-worth to every single thing you do.
Okay, Anushka. Is Anushka in the video? Not sure. Maybe she left. Did she leave the meeting?
I don't see her, Mangla.
Yeah, I think she left. So I just wanted to get her perspective as well. Okay. Okay, so you can talk about the jobs that you are doing as well, and how is it helping you, or how are you thinking about helping, using that for your career further? So Amog, and I know Amog, you're working, and Varsha, you are also working. So what are your plans, and how are you planning to incorporate that into your career at a later stage?
Yeah, so I'm currently working at a veterinary clinic in Athens. I mean, obviously, it's pretty relevant to my future career. I'm lucky. I get to do a lot of stuff there. I've worked there since my freshman year. So, I do everything from drawing blood to doing x-rays, giving vaccines, taking, patient histories, administering medication. So obviously everything I do there is very relevant to the things I'll be doing in the future. And I also get to see a lot of the, behind the scenes of doctors, diagnosing and, talking about different conditions and symptoms that we see. So that's one of the things. I worked at a different clinic here in Marietta this summer. So I definitely recommend, even if you're pretty sure about what you want to do, try different places, do your best to learn about different aspects of the field you're interested in. I'm also on the executive board for 2 clubs at UGA. And like I said, I'm an honors college ambassador. So I definitely recommend getting involved in different areas if you can, just because it gives you perspectives that you may not get if you're, hyper focused in one area.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I am volunteering or slash working with a physician at a clinic, and so I'm learning about how the doctor would go about her day and how they would treat patients. And it's really interesting because at this clinic, I get to see all kinds of patients. Sometimes they don't speak English, so we learn about different communication methods, whether it be through Google Translate or whether it be finding a translator. Sometimes I get to help with prepping vaccines. I get to help with taking vitals, and I do all sorts of that kind of stuff. So I get to see some patient interaction there. I also, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'm also doing research at a lab. And for me, this is something I've been wanting to do since high school, but I know in high school it's harder to find lab positions. But here I'm learning different research methods. I'm learning how to incorporate technology. And it's really interesting because at GT, they require that everyone takes at least one kind of basic level CS class. And after doing that, I was able to use that skill to help me get this position. So I never thought that it would help me in the long run, but lo and behold, learning Python allowed me to get this position, and I've been using it with whatever they've been having me do. And yeah, aside from that, I'm also a part of some clubs. I am in student government, and I'm also a part of this smaller club, but it's this neuroscience student advisory council. So essentially a group of neuroscience students such as myself, and we work with the neuroscience faculty and trying to bring up the neuroscience major and help develop it, and etc. So it's been really rewarding because I get to work closely with the faculty and professors, and I've also been able to learn more about GT and apply a lot of the things from classes to what I do in the real world.
Okay, great. Anyone else? We are waiting to close the breakout sessions now. Probably give 2 more minutes. So Shripriya, you are in the session, right? So can you just, you and Josna both, I know you both are very great singers and you've been learning music for a long time now. How are you trying to incorporate that into your career, or whatever way that you are planning? Yeah, Josna, you can start, then Shripriya can take.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I've been following music since I was a kid, and I just wanted to keep that going. Um, Honestly, I was not even thinking of becoming a music therapist earlier, like probably middle school, early high school. I was probably just thinking of going into the medical field or taking a degree in psychology. I always had plans to keep music in my life though, so I would always like pursue like competitions or shows, really any chance I can get to do music, to sing. Um, but then I ended up doing like an inquiry on music and how it affects the human mind and the human body. Um, and because that was just an interesting concept for me. I like want to learn everything about music, so I was like wondering, okay, I wonder how this works. Um, and then that's how I found out about music therapy. And I realized, wow, this kind of mixes all of my interests with neurology, psychology, and music. And I thought this is kind of the best way. Like I want to share my love of music to other people that might also like it too, that need some positive, enforcement in their life. So that's kind of how I thought, okay, well, music is my thing, and I want to follow that. That's why I want to be my career, because it's something that I'm interested in. So that's music, in a sense, really gave me the gift of like finding my personality, like finding my purpose and what I want to do. So that's kind of my story there.
Okay, thank you. Shri Priya?
Yeah, so I'm majoring in biological engineering, so I guess music doesn't have a lot to do with that. But yeah, I still keep my practice. I do my practice every day, so it gives me a nice break from having to study instead of having to study all the time. So yeah, I was in my senior year, I was really debating whether to do a music major or do biological engineering. I was interested in both. So since music is an uncertain field, I chose to do biological engineering. But I think I'm going to keep practicing music and keep on going to competitions and recording new songs. So hopefully I can also become a musician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good luck. So, yeah, thank you. I have a question from the audience. It's I get nervous about grades and ACT, and I can't enjoy my subject. I cannot enjoy my subjects. So, Anushka, can you answer? Can you take this? They wanted to know if there is any advice that you can provide to be able to enjoy my studies.
Yeah, sure. I think a big thing is finding something that you really like. And I think in high school, it's hard because, you have the same classes to take that everybody else takes, and you're kind of forced into taking those. But the really nice thing about college is that you have the option to take what you want to take. And I think it's important when you're looking at colleges to, especially if you're unsure about your major, to find a place where they give you the opportunity to explore. A lot of colleges don't make you declare your major until your second year. Especially where I go to, Emory, you can take a lot of whatever classes you want in your freshman year to kind of figure out what you enjoy. And so I know people who thought they would be chem majors, but now they really like anthropology because they're taking an introduction to anthropology class. Or I think a lot of people here like music, and a lot of people came in thinking, oh, I'll do STEM, but they're really enjoying their time in the orchestra. So I think college is a great time for exploration. So even if you're in high school and you're feeling very unsure, you'll find your thing in the end, and you should just be looking forward to that and not worrying about it.
Thank you. So looks like I'm going to close all rooms, and I will have everybody back into the main session.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So this will be the UGA breakout session room, and Sri Priya will be facilitating this, and Sudhi and Kirti's dad, and I'll be moderating. And feel free to unmute and ask your questions, and we'll keep going. We do have 30 minutes for this, and I'll try to wrap it up to 30 to 45 minutes. Go ahead. I think the main room presentation was so comprehensive. I'm not sure if that answered all the questions or if there is any other questions. Definitely we can discuss this in this breakout session. And I have my first daughter who graduated from UGA, and Sri Priya for a long time from Kannada Koota. She's an awesome singer and Kannada songs. I'm a great fan of Sri Priya.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, you can ask. I wasn't really told to prepare anything beforehand, so if you guys don't have any questions, then I guess I can talk about why I chose UGA. Okay, so I don't see any questions. So yeah, so I chose UGA because first I made my list of target schools, read schools, and safety schools. And okay, never mind. I got a question. Okay, so the question is, how is the college life and environment like at UGA? So UGA is a huge campus, and Athens is not a very busy town. So it is a very calm place, and the environment is really nice. I've only been there for a month now, but I love it, and I'm more of a person who likes a peaceful surrounding. So yeah, it's nice at UGA in that way.
And also just to substantiate what Sri Priya told, I have my second daughter going to tech. She is a freshman now, and my first one graduated from UGA. UGA is a big campus, and compared to tech, and it's a nice college. You have no distractions like here with the other you have. That's a good one, and it's more like for the education related, and the entire city is built around that. The main thing is UGA there in Athens, so that's a good thing. There are other activities that kids will be able to do, as well as parents as well when they are visiting.
Yeah, and also, like, I think Miss Mudgal said this, but the campus is divided into north, east, west, and south. So it's based on the majors. So like the south campus is engineering, and the north is more of law and English, like that. So I got my dorm near the center of the campus, and since I'm doing biological engineering, most of my classes are nearby. And so I just walked to most of them. There's also a bus system which you can use, but usually when you have consequent classes, like one after the other, then the buses might be late sometimes. So I usually just walk. And it's nice because first of all, you get your exercise. And as I said, it's a very peaceful place. So just even walking around campus like makes me calm down. And the food is really good. I think from what I've heard from my other friends that went to some other colleges, I think UGA has a really good meal plan option, and there's a lot of variety. So, and even if you're a vegetarian, there are a lot of options.
That's true.
And yeah, let's see what else.
It's a great campus. The infrastructure is good, and inside the campus also there are places where if college students have distraction in the dorm, they can just sit, study, and sometimes you have roommates and all the other things. So students may have their own way of what do you call, like a space. So in that case, UGA gives tremendous opportunities, media room, and they have all this, the bean bags, and all students can go there, and whatever works for there, they will be able to do. At the same time, they have big rooms where college football and all the other things who want to socialize and all. There are fun things, activities as well. So it's a good one. Any other questions, or Sri Priya can start with?
Yeah. Okay, then I'll just continue. So basically, yeah, I made a list of target schools, safety schools, and read schools. And I wanted to go to an in-state school, so that narrowed my options a little bit. And I also looked for which college had a nice biological or biomedical engineering program. Also, one question I get a lot is what's the difference between biomedical engineering, which is at Georgia Tech, and biological engineering? So biomedical is a subset of biological engineering. So biological also includes pharmaceutical stuff and natural resources and more of general biology principles. But biomedical is more focused on medical devices and prosthetics and stuff related to that area. And yeah, so after I made my list of schools, I just applied to, I had like 6 or 7, which I applied to. And based on what the colleges I got into, after that, I narrowed it down based on if it had a nice campus and if I thought I would fit in the campus, and based on whether it had a nice engineering program, and based on whether it actually had a biological engineering program. Yeah. Okay, so there's another question. Other than biomedical engineering, what are the other disciplines that are better in UGA over tech? I've only again been there for a month, so I'm not very sure, but I've definitely heard that the medical related programs are better at UGA. So like many of my friends are on the pre-med track, so they're majoring in biochemistry, biology, and one of my friends is also majoring in astrophysics. And yeah, so I've basically heard in general the medical related programs are better at UGA, but also with the engineering programs, the engineering school is new at UGA, but it's still really good and it's been accredited by this organization, by ABET, which indicates that it has a high quality engineering program, which also offers you the skills that are very relevant to the workplace. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Sripriya. I want to substantiate that I have also heard a law related programs is also good in UGA as well.
Okay, until I get some more questions, I guess I also wanted to talk about how the classes are different at UGA than like your high school classes. So in the classes at UGA, it's like, so you don't have every class every day like you do in high school. So there are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes, and there are Tuesday and Thursday classes. So most classes you usually have like 3 hours a week or 2 hours a week. And so which also means that you have to do a lot of learning by yourself. Of course, the professor will help you with any questions you have. And but you have to be prepared even before going to the class. So let's say if your professor is going to cover some material and that he has told you that, okay, we're going to cover chapter 4 today or something like that. So you probably want to read it beforehand. And so yeah, a lot of the learning is very independent. And you have, since some of the general classes, especially like the first year classes, are huge, if you have any questions, you have to make sure you reach out to the professor. And yeah, that's one major difference between classes in high school and college. Yeah. Okay, so there's another question. How are class sizes typically in the freshman year at UGA? So it depends on if you're taking most first year classes, or if you're taking like classes specific to your major, which is usually in your second year or like second semester of first year. So what I did was actually most of my classes are not first year classes. So I'm taking multivariable calculus, chemistry, physics, and some engineering related classes. But my chemistry and physics are freshman classes. So those classes are around 70 to 90 students, but all of my other classes have around 20 students. So yeah, but if you're in general, like if you're in a first year class, like English, freshman English, or let's say like some of the arts classes and so classes like that, then it's usually like the classes usually have 100 students or around that. But most classes usually have around 20, 25. And another question, more with okay, does someone apply specifically to honors versus regular? Okay, no, it's not like that. So if you apply, UGA only has 2 decisions, early action and regular decision. So if you apply in early action, then you're actually automatically applying to honors too. So they look at your application, and then if you get in, they also look at whether you can get into the honors program, whether you can be accepted to the honors program. But if you're applying through regular decision, which I did, then there's a separate application for honors also. But everyone has to do the general application. But if you're doing regular decision, you have to fill out a separate application for honors program, which is due around sometime in February. And with honors, the main benefits is you have smaller class sizes. Yeah, and you have some smaller class sizes, and you have more opportunities, basically, like more research opportunities. And yeah, there's also a specific residence hall. It's called Myers for the honors program. Yeah. Does extra activities help to get into UGA? Okay, I would definitely say yes, because for me, I had a lot of activity. I had a lot of stuff related to music. Like I went to competitions regularly and all this other my programs and all that stuff. So I think it would definitely help because it's like they first look at your grades and your GPA and your scores, etc. But let's say if 2 students have the same grades or GPA and everything, they're basically, if let's say 2 students match academically, then they will look at your extracurriculars to see who's who's more all-rounded, and that would add to your personality as well. So yeah, it definitely helps to get into UGA. And is there any criminal justice program in UGA? I'm not sure if I don't know if there's a major or minor like that. You can probably research that and find it on their website. But so we have this class called first year Odyssey seminar, which is required for you to take in the first year. So you can choose any topic you want out of the ones they have listed on their website. And I know definitely criminal justice is one of them. So if you're interested in that, you can look more into it. Okay. Do you feel
There is criminal justice and Spurti,
Okay.
my daughter took it, so that's there. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, I wasn't sure about that.
No, thank you. I understand you're a freshman, so I just want to supplement.
Yeah. Okay. So and the next question is, do you feel there's enough diversity and do you feel challenged? I definitely feel challenged, especially because one of my classes, it's in the format of a flipped classroom. So what that means is that all the learning is by yourself. The professor uploads your lecture videos and you just watch it outside of class, and you only come to class if you have any questions. So that was my engineering graphics design class, and I'm completely new to that. So that was definitely challenging, but all the classes in general are, at least for me, I found them really challenging. And diversity, I'm thinking you mean like by ethnicity and all that. So yeah, although it is a white predominant school, there are it is well represented through across all the races and ethnicities. And okay, the next question is, to your extracurricular activities and music. It does not really relate to your major, right? How important, useful was it, do you think, in your application to help you get into UGA? Yeah, so it is not related to my major, and the reason for that was because I wasn't really sure about my major until my senior year. So I just did all the stuff that I liked doing, and then I decided what I wanted to major in my senior year. So it definitely helps because they also see that you have a passion and you have an interest which you which you spend your time for, other than just things related to your in-class learning. So it helps, but what would be more helpful is if you have extracurricular activities that relate to your major. So I did biological engineering, so I could have done more medical related clubs or some engineering related programs or something like that outside of class. That would have added more to my application. But definitely, I mean, they don't expect you to be knowing exactly what you want to do in college when you're in high school. So it's okay if all of your extracurricular activities don't relate to your major. It still helps. Okay. What summer activities other than shadowing an internship? Okay, so that would be difficult for me to answer because I didn't do a lot of summer programs. Maybe summer camps. I'm not really sure. So yeah, summer camps, and then internships. I can't think of any other ones for now. Okay, so next question. How tough is it to get foundation fellow and other honor scholarships? Are international opportunities open to all students, or is there a specific criteria?
Shripriya, one thing on that summer and all. So UGA also has partnership with other, for example, Washington DC University, where UGA has what is called as a Delta Hall, and there is a partnership with them. So there are opportunities outside where they can tag into that one. So in terms of not just the internship and all within UGA, but there are other colleges where UGA has partnership, university and all. They're outside the campus and outside UGA.
Yeah. So How tough is it to get Foundation Fellow and other honor scholarships? It is actually pretty tough. I don't know anyone who got it. I mean, I don't have any contacts of any people who got it. So yeah, I think I would say it is tough. They have some requirements, but I think so you have to meet the requirements to apply and to be like looked at for your application to be looked at, but it's pretty competitive. So are international opportunities open to all students, or is there a specific criteria? Like I'm assuming you mean like study abroad programs. They're open to all students. I don't think there's any specific criteria, but it usually is around like your second, or it's not definitely, I don't think most people do it around in your freshman year. So it's later on, but it's open to all students. Okay, just to follow up on the one of the questions. I'm asking as my sons are very active in band, orchestra, and Boy Scouts for the past year. Yeah, that no, that definitely helps. I was also part of my high school band, and yeah, I know a lot of people who have a lot of extracurricular activities not related to their major, and it definitely helps. Like if you're part of the marching band or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or other volunteering programs, especially. Yeah, because it gives an overall sense to them of like who you are as a person also. So, and it helps them know that you're not just like you're looking for other activities to engage yourselves in. Yeah, and it adds to your experiences too. Like you learn a lot of different skills from doing different activities. So it definitely helps. And also, if I wasn't able to answer any of your questions, please let me know. I'll probably like do more research and I'll get back to you.
You're doing great, Sripriya. Freshman, you did explain
Yeah.
things that you have researched, got in at the same time, complementing with what you already exposed. Because the college just started, you haven't even had your midterm. So amazing the information you gather on the campus and all.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So the classes are based on semester. So you take different classes every semester. So your midterms, like my midterms are in October, and then the final exams are in December. And then I'm taking a whole new set of classes the next semester. And also there are less grades like in college classes than in high school classes. So for example, my math class, we have a homework grade, which is just based on completion, and there's only a midterm and a final exam grade. So we don't have like tests every week or something like that. So, and even for my chemistry and physics classes, we just have like 3 or 4 exams and then the final exam, and that's pretty much most of your grade. So that's also one difference between high school and college classes.
Are there any other questions? We still have a few minutes. We haven't hit the 30 minutes yet, and we also have another 15 minutes, so almost 15, 20 minutes. If there are no questions and all, we can go back to the main room. I'll just wait for another minute or two and see if there are any other questions we can answer that. Are there any other questions? Looks like. Yeah, Padmini is very right on that. So time management is very critical, and teenagers and after getting into the college, they have their own way of managing, and they will realize it. So they have to have a mix of academics plus fun, plus also as parents, we will be more concerned on them coming back, visiting us, and all the other things. We want to make sure that they are like just out of the home, they're doing okay and all. And afterwards, they realize. And one thing, my experience was just like freshmen they might be visiting every week or two. That will slow down. Just not that they're like grown up ignoring or anything. I just want to tell the parents that they have a lot going on, and just help them support in a way that is conducive and the way they expect support from the parents and the home. And sometimes kids happen, they may not text, or they may have other things, but we will be constantly saying, oh, you didn't text and all. I have done it. So that's what I'm saying, like give them and they will get back. If they have a lot of going on, they have to figure it out, especially with the first kids. We have that one, parents are concerned, kids are concerned, they have a lot going on and all. Just give them space, and they'll get back to that. And just ask them, hey, what help you need, instead of saying like, okay, she didn't text or he didn't text, and where is and not responding and all that. Yeah, just take it, this thing with a grain of salt, and give them space, and finally both will be able to figure it out. And that's just my experience I wanted to share. And I think we should 30 minutes. Thank you, Sri Priya. Appreciate you sharing all your views and answering the questions. You did a great job. And I also would like to thank Sri Priya's parents, Padmini and Srinivas, for raising her so well and making her available for the NKK community to help with this breakout session room. Thank you very much, Sri Priya.
Thank you.
They're done. I think we can go back to the main room. Are there any last call for any questions?
I think one more person joined, so if they have any questions, you can answer.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We can.
Yeah, otherwise you can wind up.
We can go back. Is there any questions? Okay. So anyway, this will be recorded and will be available, and I'll figure out how to share it with the main group. I'll be stopping the recording and then we can go back. Thank you all.
Okay.
I know that Georgia Tech is very like tech heavy and like very technical, which is something that a lot of schools don't offer. Like they give a lot of lab opportunities and CS-based opportunities for even neuro students. So it's definitely something that I would consider, but it's also worth considering that the classes here are slightly harder than let's say a UGA, just like slightly harder. So your GPA might be slightly lowered, not considerably lower, but just a little bit lower if you do attend Georgia Tech, and that might be something that is looked at in med school applications. So that is one thing that's notable, but the program itself is really unique. It's just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, if I can weigh in on this, obviously it's Georgia Tech, so it is tech based, which is why a lot of students who do other majors come to Georgia Tech just to get that technical background. So a lot of business students also come here just for that same reason, to learn the technical aspect of business. The next question is, what weight do extracurriculars play in terms of admissions? They are, I think, the deciding factor. They hold a lot of weight when it comes to it. I know people who have considerably like lower average GPAs, but because of their extracurriculars, they got in solid ones. Rohan?
More than just like the number of extracurriculars, I think like how unique your extracurriculars are like sets you apart. Also like it's worth noting that like a lot of almost like most of the people who are applying to like to Georgia Tech and like other top schools have like the base statistics, like they have like good GPA, good test scores. So what a lot of admissions officers do is they kind of, once you like meet like the criteria for GPA and test score, they solely focus on your extracurriculars. So I think that they're like more important than like grades itself, but you do need to have the scores. But I would say they're very important. And one advice I would give is not to worry about like the quantity, but like worry about the quality, because they would much rather you go like much deeper in like, let's say 3 or 4 rather than do like 9, but like not put much effort into each of those.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. On the Common App itself, you're asked to list 10 activities, and it basically asks for the amount of time you spent, like per week, per year, how many hours you spent per week as well. So it just shows how much you commit to a certain activity, and they want to see activities that you put all the most of the time in, compared to like just like maybe an hour every couple of weeks or so. The next question is, what kinds of extracurriculars is GT looking for? Does a certain kind of EC set you apart from other applicants? Kirti, do you want to talk more about this?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I know GHP really set me apart, and that was like my major activity that got me into tech, I'm guessing. And I'm a math major, so GHP math really helped. And voting off of what he said, I'd really focus on applying with a major that you have your extracurriculars that like backs it up, kind of, because colleges also want to see like what you've done in that major and what sets you apart from other people. So especially if you're like applying under like a comp sci major, there is a lot of comp sci kids at Tech, obviously. So you want to like set yourself apart and not do all the basic things every comp sci kid will probably do, because then that doesn't make you unique, and colleges don't want like clones of the same person over and over again.
Yeah, and there's not like there's like a specific kind of extracurricular that'll set you apart. At the end of the day, they're trying to build up a profile of who you are as a person. So just do things that you actually want to do. Like find an activity that you enjoy and just pursue that. That's what I would say. Just to give more background, I had a more like volunteer service background. Like I run 3 nonprofits. I played a sport. That's what I put on there, and I had jobs and internships that helped back my major application of business. Rohan, you just tell like your background.
Yeah, so most of my clubs are actually like service clubs as well. Like even though I'm a CS major, it was more like service clubs, and also like some business stuff. It was actually not exactly relating to CS specifically. And then also for extracurriculars, like it's also like job opportunities and all of that will be in the same section. So a lot of my like a lot of that section for me was talking about like some of my internships I've done. So that is pretty important to do in your major. But besides that, I would just say like do what you're interested in, because that will like you'll want to spend more time in that, and then that will be a lot more meaningful in your application.
Okay, if that answered your question. Yeah, do we want to take up the next question?
Yeah, keep the questions in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, keep posting your questions. So yeah, they can actually take up one after the other. So I believe Vishrut.
A question that wasn't answered in the regular.
Sorry about that. So the I think extracurricular questions was answered, right, Vishrut? Am I
Yeah,
audible? Yeah. Okay.
The next question,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it was how are humanities majors in Georgia Tech?
It's
Rohan?
like a small department, so it's not as big. Humanities for Georgia Tech, at least, it's just kind of like a credit most people for their STEM major has to take. So there are a lot of humanity majors, but it's not like as big of a department. And I've heard like humanities courses and professors at Tech are the best. Like I like my humanities professors the best. So they definitely are the best professors, and you're probably going to actually learn something in humanities. I'd say it's like an easier pathway. But that being said, like humanities wise, Tech doesn't focus a lot on it. So if you want to go to Tech for humanities, I don't think I'd really recommend it just because there's not a big focus on it. And it doesn't seem like their humanities program is as developed as other programs in this school. Like I know UGA has like much better humanities programs.
Also, what's like kind of notable is like everything, like every major at Georgia Tech, you finish with like a bachelor's in science. So even if you do like an English major or like public policy or one of those, you will still be finishing with like a bachelor's in science. So that can either be seen as like a really good thing because it gives you more like diversity when you're looking for jobs, but at the same time, it also shows that there's not like a full focus on humanities. Like, so I also wouldn't recommend it exactly, but there's definitely like there are also a lot of like I know several humanity majors, they say they really like it here as well, and it's just like slightly different than a normal like English major or humanities major.
Yeah, definitely. The next question is, what summer activities helps to get into Georgia Tech? Okay, so like these type of questions, whatever you do in high school, it won't like definitely guarantee you acceptance to a certain college. But again, just do activities that you want to do. For example, in summers, you could do part-time internships, shadowing opportunities, whatever you can do in the field that you want to do, definitely do that.
I
But
personally didn't have summer activities per se, so I don't think you really have to do something like every single month, all 4 years of your high school career. They do understand you're high schoolers, so I mostly like focus on my volunteering, and over the summer, like kind of Kuta stuff or other volunteering programs, I just like go and help out. But there's not like a main thing that I did over the summer per se. And I know a lot of kids at Tech are like that too. So don't worry if you don't have like a major summer program, because a lot of kids in high school try to focus on that. But sometimes you do just need your summers to relax. That's like a big thing, because when you do get to like college, you're gonna be stressed out. So also like make sure you're like enjoying high school. I wouldn't say you necessarily need like summer activities to get into college, because I know a lot of kids didn't do that and they were gone to college completely fine. As long as you focus during the school year, you can like enjoy your summers still.
yeah, the next question is, does Georgia Tech offer pre-med courses? What options, the options I have for pre-med in Georgia State? Okay, Rohan?
So I think that this question is asking like if there are any other pre-med options like in the state of Georgia. So specifically at Georgia Tech, they basically how pre-med works is it's not a major, it's basically like a minor. So you just declare a pre-med track, and then you have to take like several classes in biology, chemistry, and there's some other classes you have to take. So here, what a lot of people do is they either take a bio major or chem major, which is like pretty hard, but not like as hard as like BME, like biomedical engineering. And then they just add a pre-med track to that. So that normally works. I know some people who just like do business or CS and then add a pre-med track to that. So they have like, if they're not set on medicine, so like if you don't pursue medicine, you still have that base degree and whatever. So for most people I know who did pre-med actually went to UGA, that they have like a really good pre-med track that's focused like on like the medical side. Here's more focused on like the technical side, but that's what I would say. I know that there's some other like BSMD programs here, like I believe Augusta has one, and nearby UAB has one, but that's in Alabama. But that's all I know about pre-med.
And the next question is, what are some good minors with neuroscience? Well, honestly, with a minor, you want a minor something that you actually want to study. It could be anything for neuroscience, like chemistry, psychology, maybe even business. Whatever you want to actually study, I would minor in 100%, or a language like Spanish. The next question is, how did you figure out what you wanted to major in? What did you do to figure out and be sure that your respective major was the one? Kirti?
I personally had no idea until like I applied to college, like I think like the day of. I decided on math just because I knew I had like a strong foundation on it. I'm going through math into business. So I guess deciding that you don't really have to decide per se like in your senior year what exactly you want to be or what you want to do. I'd say like choose like go off of a subject first based on what you know you already have like a good understanding and something you'd be confident doing in college, and then based off of that subject go into like a specific pathway. So for tech, like go through their majors list and see like, okay, I'm really good at science, maybe BME is the major I want to go into, but you don't want to go into like pre-med tech and you actually want to go into like the mechanical part of it or something. So I guess just figure out what your favorite subjects is and see if you can like kind of put your interest on it. Like I'm a more hands-on person, so I don't want to be working in like a desk job. So I'm not going to go into a major that's going to like take me into a desk job. So I try to like get something where I can be like still socially active and also like help out in nonprofits and stuff through like the business side.
Yeah, I was on the same bone. I really did not have any idea what I wanted to major in. I applied with a business major, but that's because, you know, I have experience in leadership and I love managing stuff. And even now, I do want to still get into business, which is why I chose an industrial engineering major. So it gives me like an engineering background to the like finance aspect of it. But yeah, I just want to make one thing clear that you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Just pick something honestly that backs up your application. If you know what you want to be, obviously just pick that major and go with it. But if not, then just pick the major that your application backs.
Well, for me, I kind of knew for a little bit that I wanted to do CS, like since like I'd say like sophomore year, and that was just because like I actually like that's really the only class I've enjoyed is like that and math. Like I don't really like science very much, but also in basically in most colleges like Georgia Tech specifically is it's really easy to transfer. It's just like a quick like form, but in every college they'll give you opportunities to like change your major. So once you're in college, it's way different than high school because you pick like what class you want to take. And I know a lot of people who like end up realizing that they didn't like the major that they got in for and they chose, and they just changed to another major that they were more interested in. So honestly, if you can just find something around like what you're interested in, you'll always be able to like experiment once you get to the college. And then, for example, some people change from CS to like more like hands-on with like computer engineering, and they're like small things that, you know, college counselors here will help you with.
Yeah, I wouldn't think too much about like the major you're about to pick, because like the chances are you're probably going to change it when you go to college itself. So yeah. How does grade deflation impact med school acceptance? Is it balanced with MCAT scores? Ron?
No. Well, basically MCAT is just like the basic standardized test. So I guess it kind of accounts for that a little bit. It's basically, this is kind of like the same question as like more like if like going to a harder high school is going, and like will they balance out with your SAT score? And it's like kind of, so typically they do just compare you to your graduating class, so they would just compare you to students at the school. But grade deflation is kind of like a myth. Like not most most teachers won't really like make your grade lower just for fun, just because like they want to. It's just like they're going to make you take a lot of really hard classes which don't really pertain to your major, just for like the degree requirements, and that lowers your GPA. So I mean, I guess so if you're really set on med, I would look into like GPAs for your like the major you're applying for. Like you can pretty much apply to any major as long as you get the pre-med track. One of my friends is actually an IE major with a pre-med track, and he wants to be a doctor. So like I would just look into like what you're most interested in, and then like try seeing if the GPA matches. And honestly, even if it doesn't, and you're like really interested and passionate about that subject, I think it should be fun based on like whatever major you take. The MCAT itself is like very separate to that. That's like an exam you're gonna have to take in your junior year for pre-med. So that's not really related to like grade deflation itself. It's just like the standardized test that you have to take to be a doctor. That's pretty much it.
All right, the next question is, how do you balance your academic load with extracurriculars? Kirti?
I personally, it's a little hard at tech just because the workload is a lot like more than what I'm used to based on like the high school I went to. So for me, I think I work like my first class is at 8 a.m. and my last class ends at 3:50. So from that time period, I do have like chunks of a break, but I like try to finish off my schoolwork so I'm not working past like my classes, if that makes sense. And then after that, it's still like, you still do need a social life. So after that, I think I mostly hang out with friends. I haven't really picked up any extracurriculars quite yet at tech, but I know like it's like the same thing as high schools. There are clubs and organizations that you can join based off of your interest. But again, I would just recommend getting your schoolwork done as earlier in the day as you can, because most of the deadlines are like at 8 p.m. or like at earlier times in the day. So you don't want to push it off towards the end of the day where you're going to get stressed out. And like if your network goes out, most professors aren't as friendly as high school teachers. So if you do like mess up, there's not that much room for error from what I've noticed. So I just recommend like getting up, finishing all your classes in the morning, and then leaving your evenings off for like whatever you need to do. If you have a test, then you can use it for your test. But if you don't, then you can go hang out with friends or go meet up for like a club or organizations, as long as you have like evenings free.
Yeah, and the answer to this question honestly is in 2 words. It's just time management. You're gonna hear this for the rest of your life. If you can manage your time, you'll be successful. That's how it really is. The next question is, does applying ED increase your chance of getting into a certain school? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doubles. I think it's an average of doubling. So like for example, Vanderbilt is like I think around 10% regular, or sorry, early action, or I think it's RD, yeah, regular decision. But for ED, it's 24% around. So like, because it's a financial like binding contract that you pay like basically full price for the education, you have better chance of getting in. And the applicant pool is relatively lower because not that many people are ready to commit that early.
Also, like part of that answer is like, yes, it is like statistically it's easier to get in, but also like for ED, it is a much smaller pool, but it's like a much smaller pool of like people who know they want to go there. So those are typically going to be like much like very high achieving students who have like special interests for whatever school you're applying for. So their essays will also be tailored towards that school. So the applicant pool is actually equally as competitive. So the number of people they accept will be higher. It will just be like slightly harder, like it'll be like a little bit more competitive at that time. So I would say that it is like easier, just like only like a little, like slightly higher, like a couple of percentage points, which is like significant, but it also is like binds you in financially. So like I wouldn't apply ED just like for a better chance. It really should just be like I would even go here if I got in like regular decision.
Yeah, 100%. Also, I don't recommend applying ED unless you know for sure you want to go to school, because I know for me at least, throughout your senior year, you're going to very change like perspectives from at least first semester to second semester. So in the off chance you end up like deciding, hey, actually I do want to end up staying in state, or I don't end up wanting to go to that specific college, you want the option to switch your mind. I do know like senior year is very stressful, so you often do end up going back and forth between what college you're going to choose. It's not always like, for a lot of kids, I know it's not like you have one school that you have set in mind and you end up choosing it. For a lot of kids, they do end up choosing a school that they didn't even realize they'd end up going to. So unless you are 100% sure once you get in, you're going to like go for sure, I wouldn't recommend applying ED for like any place.
Yeah, I completely agree. You guys can also unmute and ask your questions out loud.
So we still have about 10 minutes. If anybody have any other questions, yeah, feel free to ask. Yeah. So Vishruth, Kirti, and Rohan, anything you wish to share about your college, like any facilities, anything about anything at all? You can go ahead. Yeah.
Well, like, I guess one thing I kind of look back on now when I was doing the whole college application process is like, I kind of forgot to like think about like where I would like want to end up. Like I kind of forgot that like, it's gonna sound weird, but I kind of forgot that I actually had to do school for another 4 years. Like it kind of just felt like, you know, like a one and done type thing. Like once I got in, I didn't have to go to school. I like wherever I got in, and that's just not exactly how it works. I think that I got really lucky because like I actually ended up really liking where at Georgia Tech, like I really like the feel of this school. It just like I wish I had like paid more attention to that because I couldn't have got like I wouldn't have got so lucky maybe if I went somewhere else. So I would definitely like tour the school and kind of get a feel for where you want to go, because I think that that's like a really crucial part. Like you do have to spend 4 years of your life here, and it's like every day. So you're like really living here, especially if you're going out of state, you can't even go back on the weekends. So like definitely like talk to people who went there, like go on tours, like make sure that that is the fit for your student, because it's definitely like really like it would be really difficult if I didn't like it here. I got really lucky that I do, but like I definitely didn't consider that aspect that I was actually have to go here for 4 years.
Sure. Okay, we have one question. Okay.
I'm not really sure what this means. This question means.
I think they're saying like if you can like do anything like right now for it to be considered. And I guess like kind of like if you do something your first semester, then you can put it for your regular decision application. So like me and Visher did internship and research second semester or first semester senior year. So we both put our internships on like regular decision applications. But besides that, not really. I would just balance like the college applications is like a sizable. I think that's probably for me it was equivalent to like 3 classes, and I only took like 4 in senior, like 4 each semester. So like definitely like balance your workload out. I don't think you can really do much at this point to like bolster it. Like that way, I think you should just like spend time like making your application the best it could be.
I also think you could, like he said, internships. That was another big thing. I had 2 my first semester senior year, and like one of mine didn't even end up starting until like September. I don't think right now like an internship for your early like admissions will actually like do anything, but like he said, you can like prep yourself for later on. So if you do end up getting like deferred, or I guess like you don't get in your first time, you can reapply for regular decision. So like still focus on first semester, like still trying to like keep yourself up. Don't let yourself think like, oh, I've already applied to college, like I'm done with it. Because a lot of people ended up getting deferred from colleges they had no idea they were going to get deferred from. And it's kind of like a shock value, but they hadn't done anything new for their application again. So if you really like are set on going to a certain school, you can still prep yourself. But I wouldn't recommend like doing anything like course or academic wise. I'd honestly pick up internships, because then you guys get like real world exposure. It can help you like figure out like what major you also want to go towards. And it's like, it's still like workload wise, it's a lot different than schoolwork. So it's going to keep you still like entertained and engaged, but without you having to pick up like another course that's going to like kind of tire you out.
Yeah. The next question is how and what did you do to secure internships? For me, it was a bunch of just cold emails. I'd find like companies that I actually want to work for, and I just email them, and then if they, hopefully like they email you back. I did not get responses for like more than half, obviously, but the ones that actually respond back and you ask for an interview and everything, then that's how it proceeds from there. And I would definitely say for your summer break of junior year, I mean, obviously enjoy your time. Junior year, summer is more just college applications. Like, I don't think I interned that summer at all. But yeah, honestly, I would focus on just writing your, Common App essays, supplementals, make a list of everything and get prepared. And don't procrastinate the essays until, like August, September, when the due dates are coming up.
Yeah, I have one question about internship. So what's the difference if you're doing an internship at an organization versus, the student chooses to do a job at Kroger, right? So what would you say the difference between, because what Ms. Sumana was saying earlier, as a student, they would learn about organization skills, people skills, and all those things. So does it matter you do your summer job at a grocery shop versus doing an internship at a esteemed organization?
I don't think it personally does. I had both. So I also worked 2 jobs, like one at Taco Bell and one at a pie shop during my junior and senior year. Either way, you're still getting real world exposure. It's honestly how you like convey what you did on your application. So if you say like, oh, I just stocked produce, then obviously it's not going to look as good as like, oh, I engaged customers and like help like with sales reports and stuff like that. So it depends on your job. Both of my jobs were kind of like hospitality and like manager position kind of thing. So I built off like leadership and like people skills. That's what I learned from my jobs. So like getting a job, I think colleges still like it because they like seeing students being able to like kind of also balance school life, work, and extracurriculars. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. So I don't think it just depends on how you put in your application. And that's all that matters. Like how you convey to them what you did. It doesn't per se matter if it was in a job or an internship.
Thank you.
I didn't intern until my first semester of senior year. I had jobs, like I worked at iLevel, which is like a tutoring company. So I was a tutor for that, but I didn't do an actual internship until senior year.
And what typical timeline would you look at for an internship? Is it like 2 months, 6 months?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the internship that you are applying for. That is, there are ones that last 2 months, ones that last a month. It depends on like the field you want to get into and what the company is actually offering. Like they have like 8-week programs, 10-week programs. Like it depends at the end of the day, right?
And okay, thank you. So you also said you reached out to a few companies, right? How did you? I mean, did you have some references there, or how did you really? Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you have connections, use that, right? It makes the process so much easier. If you don't have any connections, you start from zero, then it's really hard to like, email literally everybody. Like I researched companies online. I ended up with an internship in a political campaign, local one. It was kind of interesting for me, but I had other opportunities for like this company called Concerto AI. It was some like business startup concerning like artificial intelligence. But yeah, honestly, just pick the field that you're interested in and search up like LinkedIn or whatever internships near this area, and then just cold email them. That's it.
So
Also,
what
I
is the
recommend-
difference? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I also recommend talking to your teachers. I know like for my IBM law internship, that was like through a teacher. They also have connections for you. So make sure you're like talking to your teachers and like go up to like one and be like, hey, like I really am interested in your course. Do you have like any internships or anything that you could recommend for me? And most of them do. Like I know a lot of the science teachers are always like, hey, there's this summer program or internship, like if you're looking for it, and they send us out emails. So it's all about like Vishit said, it's connections. And I also had to like send out like I think over like 35 emails for my second internship. And like he said, you just don't get responses back, but it's kind of like a template that you create. You just go like, hey, like my name is Kirti, like you put like a little bit about yourself, and then you say like, I would love to intern for you guys. Like, I think I could like help you, I don't know, progress your company. And you just, it's like a copy and paste thing. So you send it to like all these people and most of them won't respond, but the one who do, you just kind of like keep talking to them more. So you really do have to reach out to like a greater size to just get like one internship. But it's not like too much work because like I said, like your email is kind of like a template. So at that point, it's just like copying and pasting and like CCing it to different people.
Hey,
Thank
we
you,
have
Katie.
to wrap up after this last question and go back
Yeah.
to the main room.
One quick question was, there was a mention about shadowing in the earlier session. What exactly does that mean?
So I think that's more like that's more for like medical students. So I haven't done any of that because I'm not in pre-med, but basically what you do is you like find like some sort of doctor. Like, so I had a friend that did it like Wellstar, and you basically know a doctor, and what you do is you just like follow them around for a set period of time and just watch what they do. Like, obviously because you're in high school, they won't let you do anything, but you do just get to like see what they're doing, kind of understand. It's a good experience. And it's good if you're applying to like a pre-med type major, like bio, one of those. You can definitely talk about it, especially like even though there's no set pre-med major, your essays can pretty much like talk about pre-med. So that's just like good experience to show. But you basically just find like some doctor at like any sort of office, and then you ask them if you can shadow them, and then you just follow them. But that's only for pre-med.
Yeah. Just in addition to that, I think CHOA offers a lot of stuff for high school students. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, where they can, I think, volunteer from 9th grade onwards.
Yeah, for sure.
One question, just one last question.
Yeah.
For the IT guys or the CS guys, did you guys have to do any outside certification courses to apply for internship?
I did not have to. I did like one or two on Coursera, but honestly, it's just like something that I put on my internship resumes. I didn't even end up using that in my college apps, but I don't think it really made a substantial difference because most of the CS internships are like working on teams and more of like the strategy. Like there are not many where they'll let like a high schooler do like any of like the mainstream coding. So I don't think it makes like a huge difference. But from like an educational standpoint, I liked doing them. Like I understood a lot out of them, but not really for internships. It's not necessary.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have to wrap up and go back to the main rooms. But thank everybody for asking questions. It's been a pleasure.
Right. Sure.
Hi.
Okay, there is one more question.
Yeah, sorry, I just had a question regarding the study abroad programs or co-op opportunities. Are they available for everyone?
Yes, everybody can apply and do any of that at Georgia Tech. If you're interested in it, you can do it. That's how it works.
And how about research?
Yes. Roshan, you're more in research, right? You want to tell about that?
Yeah. So, high school research. It's really hard to get a research opportunity in high school just because like in college, if you ask to research with a professor, they're basically going to say yes. But if you do want to research, just cold email a lot of.
No, I was sorry about that. I was asking about like, once you are in Georgia Tech, like, how
Then
are
yeah,
the.
it's really easy. You just have to ask your professor and they'll let you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. I think we are on top of the hour. I think we can close the breakout room. If you still have any more questions, you can feel free to send it across or post it in the chat window. So we will definitely consider them and answer them, maybe communicate it over email. All right. Sure. All right. When we return to the main room, I request everyone to turn on your cameras so we can actually close the session in a few minutes. All right. Yeah. Thank you all for joining. Yeah. Thanks, Vishruth, Rohan, and Kirti. Yeah. Okay. I'm closing the breakout room now.
Jyotsna, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Oh no, it's all good.
I see a few folks have joined in, and the recording is on, so feel free to post your questions, ask your questions. No questions so far.
Hey everyone, welcome to the out of state session. Please feel free to ask any questions, any concerns that you have, and I'll try to share my experiences as much as I can. All right, so if there are no questions, I'll just start off with my experience with joining University of Miami. So actually, initially, I was not planning on going out of state. I was planning on just staying in state because Georgia has very good scholarship opportunities with Zell, Miller, and Hope. So I thought it might be best to stay in state. But I did apply to a few out-of-state colleges just so I can kind of have some variety in my list. Also, like I mentioned before, University of Miami does have a music therapy program, so I just added that to my college list and to see what would happen. So when I decided to choose University of Miami, at first it was quite a kind of, it was an unbelievable kind of feeling because first of all, like the next year had to be remote. So that whole first year made it seem like, okay, I'm just kind of taking like online classes. It doesn't really feel like I'm going out of state. But then this year, it really hit me. Okay, so for this college, I gotta fly out to Miami, I gotta leave my parents, and I gotta attend school in Miami, you know, out of state. So, but once I got here, it, like, I guess when I was putting this on my, like, college list, I kind of tried to make sure that this would be a college that would really fit me, that I would really like, that I really liked the campus and the program. So when I did get here on campus, luckily it all worked out and all my research paid off. So that's basically my experience, at least with out of state. And then I did want to say something else, just that I was talking to my friend earlier, and I came up with this example, like with clothes, right? You have like these designer brand clothes, right? And maybe you might think, okay, I really want to get it because it's Nike or whatever. But then when you get it and you realize, oh man, wait, this doesn't actually fit me. You kind of just bought it because of the brand. That's kind of the same thing with colleges. With colleges, you want to get something that like fits you well, that's comfortable, that makes you feel good in your own skin. Just like a shirt, a good shirt. You shouldn't really care too much about designer brands. So that's kind of the example that I'd like to start everyone off with. So yeah, any questions or anything, I can definitely try to answer.
Hi, Jyotsna. Yeah, this is Sanjay. So I have a freshman this year. We're just trying to understand what advice would you have for parents who are currently, like most of us in Georgia, we always look for Georgia schools, but looking at kids who may end up out of state, what advice would you give as a parent to look for in a college outside state, or when kids say, no, I want to just go out of state, right? So what advice would you give parents that as well?
Yeah, of course. So, advice to parents is just when your kid is looking for out of state colleges, especially when they're like a freshman, just be sure to be there with them when they're looking for out of state colleges. Like, because out of state is a little bit like where the place is matters a lot more than in state, because in state, even if you end up not liking the campus life in state, at least you can go back home more often. But in out of state, you can't do that. So where they live really matters. So if your child is already thinking of going out of state, then try to be with them in the process of like looking at, okay, so like for me, okay, how's Miami like? Like how's the city life? Like our campus is right smack dab in the city. So stuff like that, like look at statistics, like how it's like to live there, and also check with your kid and make sure like, is this a place that you would like to stay? And then after that, you can get to the kind of academics part of it. Like, is this a school of interest for you? So I think you could go like that if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, we really appreciate you using the designer brand example.
Thank you. I'm glad it helped.
They need that actually. That was a really great example.
Thank you so much. I'll share that more often. Okay, cool. Any other questions?
But if there are no other questions, I had one. Right? I'm not a college student, as you can imagine, or I'm not a parent of kindergarteners right now, so elementary and stuff. But what? So when someone considers going out of state, one is obviously the fitment of, am I choosing the right one? Is that the right place, and so on. But what other factors play a role, right? Is it more of, I don't have that option within state, or is there a specific school program that I think in your case, University of Miami had the program that offered what you were looking for. So what are the other things that you need to really be focusing on, or what drives those decision making process?
So I mentioned earlier that when I was making my short list, that I was really paying attention to which schools had a music therapy program, because and a good one, right? Because that also matters. So this is kind of delving more into my field in music therapy. Lots of music therapy programs, good ones in the country, they do it through classical music, Western classical music. And the reason why University of Miami stuck out for me is because their music school actually uses contemporary music. So that means it's easily understandable for other people that don't do music. So I feel like it's an easy genre to facilitate music with. So that's why University of Miami in particular was an out-of-state school that really stuck out for me. Otherwise, there was UGA at here in state that also had a music therapy program. However, their track was again through classical music. So both UGA and University of Miami were my target schools. At the end of the day, I didn't get into UGA, but then with University of Miami, This is why I always say, like with colleges, like the fit really matters, because I ended up getting into University of Miami with a scholarship. And basically what I was looking for in this college, like making sure it has a good music therapy program with like contemporary music, a well-rounded education where I can learn everything about music, but also everything about neuroscience, was there in University of Miami. So yeah. So that's, I guess, yeah, when you're looking into out-of-state colleges, that make sure you really do your research on like what you want and what you see yourself doing in college, like in every aspect. So yeah.
Thank you. I think earlier in the session, there was also a mention of kind of the geographical situation, right? Do you want to move from, if you're born and brought up in Georgia, do you want to move to a completely different environment? And would you fit in that environment? Also plays a big factor.
Definitely.
All right, what else? We could probably stick on for maybe another 5 minutes to see if there is kind of the floating population from the other breakout rooms coming in here with either similar questions or some other thoughts, and then if there's no movement, we can probably drop off or move back to the session.
Sounds good. I expected people would probably first go to the in-state sessions first before going to the out-of-state, because even me, I was first considering in-state then out-of-state. So this was expected.
I'd be curious to know what kind of percentage of students actually choose to stay in state versus move across states, and is that more prevalent in certain states than others, right? So what if my state doesn't offer all the programs, or there is not a variety of programs offered in state that necessitates you to move to a different state or a different program?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, first of all, it does depend on the major. Like I had plenty of, when I was in chorus, I had plenty of friends that did musical theater. They wanted to do that as their major. So immediately all of them flew out of state. So, but the thing is, it definitely does depend on the state. Like in Georgia, it's very, like you have Zell Miller and you have hope already. So at least for the public schools, which they're good public schools, UGA and Georgia Tech are quite good. So, so there's very little incentive to move out, you know. And it seems like both schools are quite diverse, including Georgia State. Lots of different majors there. So, yeah.
So I wonder if you're in a state and not necessarily Georgia, and barring the other factors, right? If there's no offering of a program that the students are interested in, and provided everything else is still okay, would it make sense for the family to move ahead of time to a location or a state that offers such programs?
Yeah, some people have done that. My friend, for example, she moved to California, and her family moved with her, because actually, I believe, right, because then you can cut off dorm fees, so that's one thing. Also, I believe it depends on the state. I believe once you're like a resident of the state, you also get like the scholarships involved that are like within the state, like all this like how we have Hope and Zell Miller, like they have the same thing. So that's why some families do move where their kids are going. But it definitely all depends on like where the kid chooses to go, like what kind of perks the state has, how necessary it is for them to move, and their family dynamic. Like my friend's family was quite close, and they didn't want to, like, I guess, be so far away from their child, so that's why they moved along with her. So yeah, that definitely happened.
What if you move and with the family, and then you don't end up in a school in that state, right?
Oh, oh man, that's crazy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's another very important topic. I'll probably repeat this if more people come in. But one thing that's really important is scholarships. Because especially if you're going into a private out of state college like me, scholarships are very kind of hard to get for these colleges because the out of state prices are quite higher for when you're coming in out of state. Um, so like scholarships are very important if you want to like get into this college because it'll cost more money to attend there. Also, you don't have the option of like having to not pay your dorm fees, right? Because you have to be there. So for me, the one big reason why University of Miami definitely was an option for me is because I got my tuition paid off with my scholarship. So that's always like make sure if you want to go out of state that there's the college is offering a scholarship for you so that you can apply there, or if you're looking for community scholarships to like build that college money, that also works too, but that's another thing.
Yeah, definitely a big factor, right? Yeah. Is anyone in the audience contemplating moving out of state? Do you want to share what your thought process is, or what's running through your mind about out of state options?
Hey, this is Ram.
Hey, Ram.
I'm actually, yeah, my daughter is applying for a college and she's looking at out of state also.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe it goes with the somewhat with the designer brand example that Jyotsna was mentioning, and also based on the stats and other factors that she has, she's looking at some of the out of state. One question I have is some of the colleges she's looking has quarterly system, which is like 10-week semesters. So that's one thing, at least to me, it looks a little scary to complete a course in like 10 weeks and 4 courses within that short span. Jyotsna, do you have that in your college or any friends that you know doing such like 3 to 4 semesters in a year type of environment?
Actually, no. I don't have any friends doing that at all. All of the colleges that they're in and the college that I'm in go by like a semester.
Regular fall and spring.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose I don't think like these courses it gives you the impression that it'll be like a lot in
Right.
like just a quarterly period of time.
Yeah.
But they're designed to make sure that the student can finish within those weeks. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem, really. Maybe if there's a way to like see any Q&As of for like parents or students in the like college's website, like or anything like that, you can probably inquire about that. Watch a few videos about that if you want. But
Yeah.
yeah, most classes would work that way. For example, when you take a semester class, it's just one semester. It's not going to be an entire year's worth of studies in one semester. So they'll balance it out most likely, yeah.
So just for my understanding, like with no experience on this, right? So is for you to compare like an AP level course in school, like if you take an AP biology or something or physics, and a similar introductory course you do in first year of college, is it a less amount of material then in one semester that you do in your college, or what you know of, like, or is it? Because what I was hearing is it's kind of the same material what you do in 9 months in school, high school, is done in 3 months in college, which look to be too much to digest. Because in a regular semester college like yours, I was hearing people do 5 to 6 courses per semester. That seemed much more work than in high school. High school itself was too much for me to see how much they're doing.
Yeah, in respect to AP classes, you are 100% right. The
Yeah.
AP classes in high school are, since it spans over the entire school year,
Yeah.
it is most definitely easier to finish off those credits in high school. Because first of all, in college, what happens is like these required classes will get in the way of you accomplishing your major. So that's annoying already. And second of all, yeah, in college, they make it, I guess it does depend on the class and the teacher, like when you really get down to it. But overall, with my experience too, it's and also talking to people. For example, I took AP psychology in high school. And as a music therapy major, you're required to take intro to psychology to complete all of the other psychology classes. So I got that, prerequisite knocked off because I took AP Psych. But when I'm talking to my friends about how their experiences is, it's very hard, and you never know what kind of teacher you'll have too. But it's quite a lot of like reading, quite a lot of like. It's just the way that the course is structured is very, because in high school it's college material, but it's structured so that a high schooler can understand it. In college, it's just college both ways, so it's harder.
So if I understood you, like the introduction classes are more challenging than the subsequent second year or later courses because of the time, short time you have to finish like you have to finish all this AP material within that semester. Is that what you're saying? Because one other thing I was also hearing is all these intro classes will have 200 plus kids in a classroom. And when you go to your specialty courses, it will be more less number, like 20 or something, and you'll have more one-on-one with the teacher. So any experience you can share, like is the intro classes have more impact on your GPA or the overall stress level of doing that course? Or?
When it comes to, okay, so with intro classes in college, as I was saying before, that they are harder than like taking them in high school, but these intro level courses are still most definitely manageable. Yes, there will, lots of students will be taking these intro courses because it doesn't matter what major you're in, you'll be required to take it. So there will be lots and lots of students in this. And so that's why most people don't usually like to take it, is because you don't get as much individualized attention. And it's just the learning process in general is just a little bit, at least for the intro classes, it's just a little bit like confusing, a little bit like hard to understand, because the teacher can't really cater to all different types of people. So you're kind of navigating that course a little bit by yourself, like, because it's kind of like a lecture kind of style. The teacher just gives information and you have to decide what you want to do with it. So in that respect, an intro class is harder than an AP class. However, after the intro classes in college, second year, third years, all these classes, they're just going to get harder. Even though there are less people there, they're going to get harder because as it gets more specialized, and as it like tunes more to your major, it will get harder and harder. So yeah, but it'll be easier, like you'll get more help and it'll be structured a lot better so that it's for people that kind of are just for your major, right? So even though it does get harder, it's still, you know, it's still in, I guess, structured in a good way. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jyotsna.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I work with your dad, his colleague.
Oh, really? Yeah, hi, Dad.
All right. Anything else that you want to cover here? Any questions, comments, final thoughts?
I think for the most part, I've probably said everything that I wanted to say. I don't think I'm missing anything. Yeah. Yeah,
Alright,
when it
then.
just comes to out of state, there are just a couple of things that you have to look out for. It's kind of just like any school that you're applying to, whether it's in state or out of state, just like you have to look at other things more than you look at for other schools. So it's just, yeah.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Sharath. Did you have a question? Something that you want to share, Sharath? Right. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, at least. It was informative for me, both the main sessions and this one. It's going to be a while before I use any of that for my kids. But thanks, Jyotsna. Thanks for sharing your experiences. I think I'll close this out and we can move back to the main room.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool. So, see, Ramesh, Aparna, if you have any questions, please go ahead. And we have Anushka and Advik from Emory. I think both of you are freshmen, right? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for your time, Anushka and Advik.
I actually have a question about your majors. So what were both of your majors again?
Sure, so I can go first. So I'm doing a quantitative sciences major, which is basically data science, but less technical. It's more about approaching anything you want pretty much with technical skills like R, data analysis, data visualization. So I chose to do a biology track with that major. So basically it's combining data science and biology.
Okay. So like statistics?
Yeah, kind of. It's more like on the statistics side rather than computer science. So it's more, that's why they call it quantitative sciences, because it's very broad and it's basically an application major.
Okay. Is that similar to quantitative biology?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm interested in. So for me, it was a really great fit. I'm taking bio classes this semester and next semester, and you can choose any bio electives, but you also get to take courses in bioinformatics, and you have a lot of electives in population biology and modeling public health statistics as well. I'm really interested in either going into bioinformatics or healthcare consulting, so this is why I chose this major.
Okay, got it.
And I'm studying neuroscience.
Okay, and then is neuroscience, what exactly like consists of neuroscience that it makes it its own major? than any
Very
other?
interdisciplinary. So you don't just like study psychology or biology. You need to pick electives from different majors, or different like topics, like I think anthropology, biology, psychology, even like philosophy and religion. And there's something called core courses. So those are the real like neuroscience courses that are required, and those kind of examine the brain. So it's like psychology, but with the heavy like bio focus instead of just like the methods and experimentation.
Okay. And are both of you in pre-med?
I am.
Okay, so then
I'm not a pre-med.
Okay, good. So then do your pre-med courses, the requirements you have to take for pre-med and whatever you do in neuroscience, do some of them overlap, or are they two different things?
Yeah, they definitely overlap. In fact, I think some of the pre-med courses are requirements for the neuroscience major. So I think like general bio, general chemistry, they overlap, and also you can take some pre-med like requirements as electives for neuroscience. So it helps a lot, I think.
Okay. Do you think taking your neuroscience courses helps you with your pre-med coursework or vice versa?
So the neuroscience coursework starts sophomore year, so I haven't actually taken anything yet, so I can't really answer that question. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Aparna. I think great questions. I see Nidhi and Ramesh Rao. I'm not sure if you want, you can also go ahead with your questions if you have any.
Hi, I'm just listening actually. So I'm the parent of Advik.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. I'm just here to listen. I don't really have any questions at the moment.
And we can
Alright.
tell you a bit about Emory if you want. Anushka and I.
Yeah, go ahead, Advik and Anushka. Sure.
Do you want to share your experience so far, and then I can tell mine?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh no, I was just saying we can like share a bit about our experience at Emory so far.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it's been about a month since we've moved in, and I think it's been really amazing so far. I'd say my favorite thing has been our professors. I feel like our faculty is really amazing, and I've really strongly enjoyed talking to them and being in all of my classes. And I love the campus. I think it's really beautiful, and it's not too much of a walk anywhere. And I've also met a lot of really intelligent people that are very motivated, and I really enjoy the atmosphere.
I have to echo everything you said. I think what I like most about here is the fact that everyone's from all around the US, and that's kind of rare to see in Georgia. So I've met people from like even like Wyoming and like places like that, which I usually wouldn't meet. And I think it's really cool to like see how everyone thinks, even like from all around the world, and what they have to contribute.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think I've met a lot of international students as well, it's so interesting to learn from them as well. So I think I'm even more excited to keep talking to people and meeting new people. I think it's an ongoing process still at this point, but yes.
Yeah, I think 1 in 5 students here are international.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
Cool. Thanks, Anushka. That's cool. Any questions now that I see more people joining? Jyoti, Krish, and Anirudh. Please feel free if you want to ask any questions.
We are good, thank you.
I actually have one more question. So since Emory is in Georgia, do you guys get Hope and Zell Miller scholarships? Do those apply?
Yeah, so you don't get as much as you would get at a public school, but you still get about $5,000 from Zell and Hope, I think, for the year or the semester. I'm not sure. No, I think it's 5,000 for the year, and that includes Hope and Zell Miller, and you also get an extra, I think, $500 from some other Georgia residency that fund that they also give. And there are a lot of opportunities for other outside merit scholarships, which I would highly encourage you to apply to, regardless of where you want to go to college. I think those, if you just apply to, a bunch, you'll get a couple of them, and those can really make a big difference in your overall tuition costs.
Okay, cool. And then from what you've seen so far or heard from other students, is there a lot of grade deflation or inflation at Emory?
So far, I would not say so, at least in the class I've seen. I just had my first bio midterm and the average is actually an A, so I don't think it's too bad. Also, they don't grade on a curve like some other schools. Like some other schools compare you to other students and then they grade based on that. Here, it's just what you study and what you get is what you get. So I think that's very helpful.
Okay.
I agree. I think it also depends on like what classes you take. Like obviously not all classes are equal. A humanities course is going to be a lot easier than an advanced math course. So you're not going to have the same level of rigor in both of those courses. Like I'm taking a math class right now that's very difficult and it's not easy by any means, but I do agree with Advik. It's like you get the grade that you put the work in for.
Okay, cool. And then for both of you, what was the deciding factor that made you want to go to Emory?
I can go. I think it's the neuroscience program. It has a lot of different courses and it's very detailed. There's like cognitive science of religion and like there's like physics of the brain and courses like that, and they're very interesting and they're very unique. So I won't find them like anywhere else. That's why I wanted to come here.
I had a couple of reasons. One of them being that it was really close to home. I'm from here, Marietta, Georgia. I really, like the weather here, and I wanted to be close to my parents. And I guess some of the other factors were that I really like Emory's a smaller school. It's about 7,000 undergrad students, which I really wanted. I didn't want to go to a humongous school. And I also really like how it's not an urban campus, but it's still close enough to the city where you can go out into the land and explore, but you still have your beautiful contained campus. And yeah, it's a very beautiful campus, I have to say. And I also really liked the community. I feel like it's very intellectual, but also very collaborative, which I really liked. And then also my major, I personally didn't find anything like it anywhere else. So Emory was a really great fit for me.
Cool, thank you.
Great questions, Prana. Really appreciate you asking that. Actually, I see Neil and MSRR. If you have any questions, you can go. So while wait, I had a question. So about the merit scholarship, like Anushka, do you have any idea of how that outside of Hope and Zell Miller, right? Like, is there what's the process? If you guys know, we can share some information on that.
Yeah, sure. So there's obviously a lot of different kinds of merit scholarships. So first, Emory offers their own merit scholarships. They have something called the Emory Scholars Program, and you can apply to that. It's a little bit of an earlier deadline compared to the regular decision, but it's not binding. It's just you're submitting your application earlier so that you can be considered for that. And that scholarship can be anywhere from a couple $1,000s to full tuition. And you'll hear back about your admissions from them early as well. So I would highly encourage anybody to apply to that program. And they also have, they also offer National Merit Scholarship money, So if you place high enough on your PSAT that you would take in your junior year, you also get around $5,000 from that. And then there's also scholarships that are in your local community level. So like Ms. Sumana was saying, going on Navions, looking for scholarships that are in your community, those are a really great way to get a couple extra thousand. And for me, that really made a difference in the final cost for this year.
Thank you. Yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah, there's also some scholarships in the financial aid package. So even with the financial aid, there's some merit money that can be given. So I think you should just apply for financial aid regardless of whether you think you should get it, whether you think you'll get it or not.
Gotcha. Okay.
Are there a lot of opportunities for research at Emory?
Yeah, definitely. You can just honestly, you can like whenever you want, you can just email a department or professor, and you can like get research pretty easily. I think the main like thing from then is how it fits with your schedule. So I'd say first year, try not to take like 20 credits, or try not to like overburden yourself, and that way you can have time and like energy for out of class activities and also research.
I would also add that they have different kinds of research. So it's not just, your typical working in the lab research. You can also do like working with professors on anything. I've heard of research in like I know our department, they have a lot of data science research, even like social studies research, history research. There's just so many different forms that you can get involved in. So I think that's really great that they have the diversity of options because different people want different things.
Okay. So would you, if you did want to start research with a professor, would you approach them about something you want to do or something they've worked on previously and you've shown interest in? Like which between the two?
I'd say something they worked on previously because it's hard to like start up a research project if you're not a PI, which is a principal investigator, which is a person like in charge of the research. But the good thing is that there's so many different types of research going on here that you can find anything you're interested in. For example, if you're interested in something with religion, you can look at the religion department and you can look through whatever they have. I think there's one with religion and ecology, which is very unique, and you can do research in that field. So yeah, there's like many different opportunities.
I would also say that yeah, definitely you would do more of the professor's research. They also, as you progress, so maybe in your junior or senior year, they might offer a actual class for you to conduct your own research, where you would work with faculty to come up with your own thesis and end up doing that for the entire semester. I think they have different names in different departments, but there are a lot of those kinds of opportunities available too.
Okay. And what were some things that you did in high school that you feel like are helping now in college? Like either academic courses or extracurricular activities or?
You can go first.
Okay, so I would say when for helping me to do better in college, I definitely think my AP classes were great preparation. I think they just teach you a lot of how to study well, and that is obviously really useful in college because you do have to do a lot of self-paced learning and guiding and studying. But I also feel like a lot of the clubs that I was a part of, I did a lot of community service. I was part of student government. The skills that I learned there, like interpersonal skills about leadership and community engagement, were also very helpful because I feel like at Emory, people really care about like helping others, and I've definitely seen some really great initiatives going on about volunteering in the Atlanta community, and I feel like because I already have experience it's very natural for me to go progress there as well. So I think just anything that you're interested in high school will help you in the future. I can't really say there's anything super specific.
I have to echo that. I think academic preparation is super important. Especially AP classes, they're helping me right now because in intro courses, if you took the AP class in high school, it won't be as bad. And also I think yeah, that's like the main thing I have to say. I can't really speak on extracurriculars because for me, the things I didn't really like carry over. They were like clubs in high school. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great questions, Panna. I think you're covering pretty much all the aspects that before going to college and high school and then scholarship. I think it's good, very good questions. Thanks for asking. Any questions from others? So Anushka and Advik, we may have to wait a little more time. We have like 5 breakout rooms, right? So maybe others may join once they finish other content. So we may have to just stay put for some time. Let me ask a question while you wait. This is getting recorded. So how does once, I know it's been like a month and a half since you joined. How are you able to manage your schedule, right? Like day to day from morning to evening, are you able to manage it or you're still kind of adjusting? How does it, is it very hectic or can you just share some of your experience?
I'd say it's easier than high school for me so far because I chose my schedule in a way that I'd get the classes done early, not too early, but like 10 a.m. to like 1 p.m. And that way I'm free for the rest of the day to just like do my work or just do extracurricular activities or something like that. And that's how I organize it for each day. So it's not terrible so far. But yeah, also I think socializing is very important. If you have friends to do everything with, it'll make it 10 times easier than if you just do it alone.
I think I would say mine is a little bit harder to manage. A lot of my classes were like one section, so you didn't really have too much of a choice. So I have some evening classes, which have been a little bit tricky to manage because by the time of day you're tired. But the nice thing about evening classes is that your morning is free. So I get to sleep in a couple days, which is really nice. And I have a couple of 8 a.m.s, which in college are very hard to get up for. So I think those have been like a learning process of going to sleep on time and making sure you get to class on time. But I definitely agree with Advik, like the days that you have classes over in the morning and you have the evening to work is just really relaxing and I feel very productive on those days. But I definitely still feel like it's still an adjustment at this point because I think it also depends on the number of credit hours you take. I'm taking 16, which isn't too bad. I just think they're just spaced out very oddly. So I think, but it's also up to you. You build your own schedule and you have all the choices to make on your own. There's nobody deciding those things for you. So I really enjoyed like making my own schedule and having my own planning and things in between classes and stuff like that. And I definitely agree that working with friends and finding friends to study with has been probably the best part about having a daily routine.
Awesome, thank you. That's good. So is the rumor true that you get addicted to caffeine a lot in college? Coffee, tea, no? It's just a rumor.
I don't drink it. I just like eat to like get energy. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have only had like iced tea one time, but I do definitely see people like pouring themselves a large cup of coffee.
Okay.
I would say that like especially our dining hall has candy, so I feel like that's probably been the thing that's been keeping me going, just like a bunch of like Hershey Kisses.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of sugar, I guess. Yeah. Cool. Thanks. All right, so I think you're pretty much done. I'm going to stop this recording and going back to the main room. All right, thanks so much, Anushka, Nadvik, for your time.
Problem. Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
While everyone else comes back to this room, so kids, all the kids, I'm very extremely grateful, thankful that you all made time. With your busy schedule in the college, you made time for us and came and shared your knowledge. So, like just the last bit is Divakar from the Nrupatunga Kannada Koota is going to come back and talk few words. Okay, Divakar, you can take over.
Yeah, thank you, Mangla. Yeah, I'm sure everyone found this session very helpful. Like it was close to 2 hours. Yeah, over 2 hours, and it was very, very informative. And Mangla, our heartfelt thanks. Thanks to you for your active partnership with the NKK and your initiatives for the community and organizing this event. And Nrupatunga Kannada Koota is very appreciative of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And lastly, and very importantly, we thank the youth of our community for sharing all of their experience and wisdom. And having been through the college admission process by themselves, yeah, that was very, very informative session, and we really appreciate your time. And we wish you the best of luck with the rest of your college. All right. All right, Mangla, I think, are we good to close the session? Yeah. All right.
Thanks again.
Thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you.